Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is Open Mic. Now, on the John Campea Show, we cover a lot of movie news stories, and we save a bunch of time for live questions. But here on Open Mic, that's all it is. It's just us all getting together, talking about whatever it is you guys want to talk about, and that is what we are here to do today, guys. I'm excited. I'm a sports fan. You guys know this. Got a big UFC fight tonight that I'm really excited about. We got a champ versus chance. We got Henry versus TJ, champion versus champion. That's good tonight. And then, of course, tomorrow, AFC Championship, NFC Championship, the New England Patriots, for the 8th year in a row, are in the Final Four. Never been a dynasty like that in football. Never will be a dynasty like that in football ever again, even if the Patriots lose tomorrow, which they may, because the Kansas City Chiefs are damn good. The Patriots beat them already once this year, but that was a tight game, and the Kansas City Chiefs could very well win that game tomorrow, I'm telling you. But so we got that game. We got the New Orleans Saints versus the LA Rams. That's going to be an amazing game. I love the LA Rams, but I love Drew Brees. Great weekend of sports stuff, and a little bit of time for us to talk some movies along the way. You know what I'm going to do today, guys? No time limit on today's show. No time limit today. We're going to go as long as you guys have questions to send. If that means the show's a half hour long today, then the show's a half hour long. If that means the show is 2 hours long, then the show's 2 hours long. And that's what we're going to do today, because we feel like talking about some movies and TV and all that kinds of other stuff. So let's get right to it, guys. And we'll start off with this. The first message today comes to us from Mike Hill. And Mike Hill is leading things off by saying, "Hey, John, no question for me this time. Just want to say how much I appreciate you and your channel." Oh, that's so nice of you, Mike. Thank you so much. And the community. I have autism, so I hoped I come across well in questions. It feels like family. You know, it's really, okay, I hope this comes across the way I hope it to come across. But man, ever since The Accountant with Ben Affleck, whenever I think of anybody with autism, I just feel, I get this picture of an amazing badass who's going to kill everybody, who's going to go and kill all the bad guys in the world. I don't know why. That movie was great for that. Anyway, that aside, Mike, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. And I'm really glad that you found a place in our community here that you like to hang out with and talk to each other. And really, kudos to you just for sending in something to say thanks. I appreciate that greatly. And I'm sure everybody else in the community here does too. So thanks for that, Mike. All right, let's move on here. ZMG the Ruler writes, "Never saw Die Hard. Any good?" Well, I mean, yes. All film is subjective. I cannot guarantee you're going to like Die Hard. But there's a very, very high probability you'll end up liking Die Hard. Die Hard is magnificent. It's a fantastic, fantastic movie. Iconic. It has stood the test of time. It continues to stand the test of time. And watching it just might make you a little bit sad that Bruce Willis doesn't care about the movies he's in anymore. Godzilla Love Campea writes, "Which is better, Taken, or John Wick?" Man, that's tough. Okay, I'll say this. There are elements of Taken that are better than John Wick. There are elements of Taken that are better than John Wick. I mean, the performance Liam Neeson gives is incredible, all that kind of stuff. But if I had a Sunday afternoon to myself and somebody said you can watch one movie, you can watch Taken or you can watch John Wick, you can watch Taken again or you can watch John Wick again, I'm probably watching John Wick again. So I will lean towards John Wick, but really this is one of those situations where I don't think there's any wrong answer, but I'll personally lean towards John Wick. All right, Cameron Belgrade writes, "Have some time to watch a show. Should I finally get around to watch Daredevil Season 3 or Punisher Season 2 because it's newer? Also, hashtag Justice for Han." Well, I have not. Well, screw that. Screw that Justice for Han nonsense. Get that garbage out of here. Anyway, I have not watched Punisher Season 2 yet, so I can't speak to that. I also don't know if Punisher Season 2 has any references to the events of Daredevil Season 3 or not. I mean, I just simply don't know. I don't have any idea of that or not. Also, let me just double check something here. Sorry, guys, a small technical difficulty here. Is my stream a little bit funny for you guys? Because I'm looking on my computer here, and it looks like the stream is like jittery or something like that, which is really odd. Also, you might hear an echo here for a second. Just let me check something here. References to the events of Huh. I'm just looking at the monitor and it looks like my video is a little jittery and I don't know why that is, but if you guys aren't complaining about it, I guess we'll just keep going on the way we're going on. All right. Yeah, since I don't know whether or not Punisher Season 2 has any references to Daredevil Season 3, I would say play the safe route. First of all, Daredevil Season 3 is amazing. It's really great. So I would say watch Daredevil Season 3 first. For two reasons. One, chronologically, that's where it is. Number two, I haven't seen Punisher Season 2, but just in case there's some references to Daredevil, it just seems like the safest bet is to watch it in those order. Long run, you want to watch both of them. Right, in the long run, you want to watch both Daredevil Season 3 and Punisher Season 2. I would say go with Punisher Season 3 first. That would be the order that I would do it. All right, let's see here. Ben Rayner writes, if things were different, could you see Kiefer Sutherland in Taken and Liam Neeson as Jack Bauer in 24? Well, I mean, Ben, you know my whole thing. My whole thing is simply, if it's a good actor, then the good actor can play the role. So is Kiefer Sutherland a good actor? Yes. So therefore, could he have played the role in Taken? Yes. Is Liam Neeson a good actor? Yes. Could he have played the role in 24? Yes. So, that's what I was going to say about that. They're both tremendous actors, and those are both tremendous franchises. All right. Eat That Horse writes, Dragon Ball Super Broly was absolutely nuts, man. Theater was sold out. Felt like half my city was there. Well, I mean, in its opening day, it made about $2 million. I suspect it's probably going to make around. I mean, me and Robert were talking about this off camera, and I pitched out a guess that maybe it would make about $18 million on its opening weekend, and at $2 million for its opening night, yeah, it could come in right around, maybe even a little bit over. So, yeah, look, everybody who's a Dragon Ball Z fan is going to go see it. Everybody who's not a Dragon Ball Z fan is not going to go see it. And there you go. So I'm expecting 18 plus. I'm expecting 18 plus. We'll see what happens. All right. Eat That Horse says, Glass felt so tone deaf to the comic book audiences. Well, it depends on who you ask, right? It depends on who you ask. Like, to me, I agree. The movie, I said this before, I'll say it again. The movie felt like it was pandering to an audience that it didn't actually understand. So, and you're right, it felt completely tone deaf to me. But there are other people, there are people out there that do like the movie, who are comic book fans, and it worked for them. So, I mean, who's to say? Like I said, as a comic book movie fan, all I got out of Glass was, wow, you're really desperate to pander to the comic book audience, but you're making it pretty clear you have no idea how to pander to the comic book audience. You don't have an understanding of that audience, because just saying superhero 50 times in your movie, and I swear to God, if I had a nickel every time they said superhero in the movie, I would be rich right now. Just keep saying superhero, because the kiddies love superheroes, so keep saying superhero. They love it. Yeah, it felt like to me like they were pandering to an audience that they didn't understand, but at the same time, there's a bunch of people that do like it. As of right now, the Rotten Tomatoes ratings dropped a little bit. It's about 35% right now, which there are worse. There are worse ratings than 35%. But there are people out there that like it, and more power to them. But yeah, I felt that exact same way. It felt very, very tone deaf to the comic book audience. That's just my feeling, though. Other people feel differently. All right. Luke1234 writes, did you get Married with Children in Canada? Oh, yeah, man. Every TV show you got in the United States, we got in Canada. Unless it was on some obscure little network, then every TV show you guys had, particularly on the big major networks, everyone that you guys had, we had there as well. So, yes, we absolutely got it. I used to love Married with Children. It is. Memories. Stubble McShave writes, have you seen Stan and Ollie yet? Nope, still haven't seen it. I don't recall it playing around me, so no, I haven't seen it yet, but I am anxious to see it. Stubble McShave follows up with, if there are no costs or consequences to the unsnapping in Endgame, then it might affect my enjoyment of Infinity War in future viewings. It somehow cheapens it. Well, here's the thing, Stubble. I think all fake deaths, to some degree or another, cheapens what happened prior to it. I think all fake deaths do, right? Like, doing your big fake death of Superman in Batman versus Superman, and then just bringing him back in Justice League, it cheapens, if there was any emotional impact of the death of Superman, it takes that away. And it happens over and over again in Marvel movies, most egregiously, but also in DC movies and others. It's not like fake deaths are only done by comic book movies, but they're done pretty prominently there. Clearly, Spider-Man's coming back. Clearly, Black Panther's coming back. Clearly, Doctor Strange. They're all coming back. Even Loki is coming back because they're going to do a Loki TV series. Now maybe it's going to be a prequel, fine. But even though it's a prequel, he's still coming back to the screen, right? Like they're all coming back in one form or another. Here's where I think the impact happens. For me, at any rate, Stubble. For me, it took away some of the emotional impact watching the movie, even for the first time, because I knew they were all coming back. Like, we had already heard that they were going to be doing Spider-Man Far From Home when we went in to watch Avengers Infinity War for the first time. So, as Peter Parker is sitting there and going, I don't want to go, Mr. Stark. I don't want to go. It was still a very good scene, and I enjoyed it. I thought it was well played by Tom Holland and everybody involved. It was a great scene. It was a great scene. But it did not have the amount of impact on me as an audience member as it could have had because I knew Spider-Man was coming back. What it doesn't do, though, for me is that if I go back and watch it later, I don't think it changes it for me. It affected my first viewing, but I don't think it would affect my subsequent viewings because that movie is still its movie. Regardless of what happens after Infinity War, regardless of what happens in any of the other MCU films, Infinity War, it's still its own movie. And I don't think what happens, and I'm just speaking for myself here, I'm not speaking for you. I don't think whatever happens in, I think I know what my problem is. Anyway, I don't think whatever happens in Endgame will change or alter how I feel about Infinity War. But my experience with Infinity War the first time was impacted because I knew a bunch of them were coming back. And that's how it affects me at any rate. I don't know, maybe it affects you different. I'd be curious to know, how does it affect you as a viewer? Not at all, a little bit on one side, a little bit on the other. I'd be curious to know your guys' thoughts. Let me know. Okay, let's move on here. And next we move on to Ben Rayner, who writes, Seinfeld episode with Bizarro Jerry, classic. I don't even know if I remember which one you're talking about, Ben, to be honest with you. Which one was that? Give me a second. Let me look this up here. Let's see. What am I looking for again? Oh, yeah. Seinfeld Bizarro World episode. Which one is that? I can't remember that one. Now, normally I can pick off Seinfeld quotes a lot, but I don't remember which one that is. I'll have to go back and watch it to see if I remember. ZOMG Ruler writes, will 2020s be the solo movie era for Marvel and DC? Well, I don't know. I mean, for DC, obviously, because we're going to talk about this on the John Campea show on Monday, but the head guy over Warner Brothers just basically said for the DC movies, they're leaning away from shared cinematic universe stuff. So don't expect a Justice League anytime soon, folks. They're going to focus on solo films. And that might be a good move. They've had good success as Wonder Woman. They've had great success with Aquaman. Let's see what happens with Shazam. So they're clearly going to have standalone movies. With Marvel, we may or may not get an Avengers 5 in 2020. But even if we don't, what we've seen Marvel do, even in their standalone movies, they do some good team-ups, right? So, Ant-Man and the Wasp. In Captain America Winter Soldier, we were introduced to Falcon, we had Black Widow in it, we had Nick Fury in it. Captain America Civil War had everybody in it. You might as well have called it something else. So I think even if there's not an Avengers movie in 2020, I still anticipate we're going to get some crossover. I still anticipate whether it's a Doctor Strange, we'll have Doctor Strange and Spider-Man, or, and Spider-Man Homecoming had Tony Stark in it, right? So I expect to see more of those, where I think Warner Brothers, it looks like they're going to lean away from that with the DC movies. We'll have to wait and see, but we'll talk about more on that on Monday. All right. Sport CSJJ981 writes, "Hey, John, great show. Thank you so much. Thanks to you and your crew for all the hard work." Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And I believe me, we do work hard. And we work a lot of hours, and we put in a lot of effort. And remember, it's not just our shows that we're doing now. We have another studio worth of stuff that guys are working on too. And it's a lot. And it's always nice when somebody acknowledges that and says thank you. So thank you for that. And thank you for being here. And thank you for being a film fan with us, dude. I appreciate that. All right. Levi Road writes, "How powerful was Odin? Would Thanos have attacked if Odin was on that ship?" I don't know. I used to have a theory. Now, the Russo brothers shot this theory down, but I used to have a theory that the timing of when Thanos really starts to make his move had something to do with Odin was now gone. Odin was damn powerful. Odin took away Thor's powers like that. Odin was the one who put the enchantment on Mjolnir. Odin was the one who, when surrounded by the entire legion and race of frost giants, and Odin was damn powerful. And my one lament about Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins, was that they never really gave us a sense of Odin letting loose. You know what I'm saying? So I'd be curious. The Allfather. Now, the Russo brothers, like I said, they struck down my theory because they said, Odin actually went on the move at this point because of this, this, and this, and it had nothing to do with Odin. But I don't know. I don't know if a Thanos with only one stone would have gone head-to-head with the Allfather Odin. I don't know. I mean, really, only Kevin Feige can answer that. I don't even think the Russo brothers can properly answer that. I don't even think Joss Whedon could properly answer that. I think the only guy who can truly answer that in their movie universe, we're not talking about the comics, we're talking about the movie universe. The only guy who can truly answer that is probably Kevin Feige. It's a great question, though. Let's put it this way. Thanos fighting Odin, the Allfather, is something that, now Thanos without the completed Infinity Gauntlet, but Thanos fighting Odin is a fight I would have liked to have seen. That's a fight I would have liked to have seen. I don't know. Something tells me that without a completed Infinity Gauntlet, something tells me Odin might have spanked that Titan. I don't know. That's just me thinking. Okay, anyway. Let's see. That was Levi. We go to Patrick Conway, who writes, "I dropped Arrow last year because it seemed like they can't get to season 1 and season 2 levels, but saw that Kelsey Grammer will narrate an episode. That gets me." I hadn't heard about that, and I will say this. You guys know I've been quite negative on Arrow ever since season 3. I used to love Arrow. I was the biggest Arrow evangelist out there. I call myself an Arrow evangelist. I was the biggest Arrow evangelist in the world in seasons 1 and season 2. Season 3, they kind of lost their way and they lost me. But I've caught up on the show. I've kept up with it and still been disappointed. But I will say this. The first half of this season with Oliver in prison, all that kind of stuff, not bad. Not bad. I'm not going to say it's back to season 1 and season 2 level. But as somebody who's been very critical of where Arrow has gone, I got to say, this season hasn't been bad at all. I've actually enjoyed it. And I'm anxious to see where they go from here. But I love Kelsey Grammer, and him doing that, I have not heard of this, but I'm excited to hear about it, so we'll see how that goes. All right. Levi Road writes, "Is Jamie Foxx the best comedian / television star / singer to transition into movies?" No. 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 I don't even know if he's in the top 3. First of all, it doesn't come close to Tom Hanks. Doesn't come close to Mr. Academy Awards himself, Tom Hanks. No way. And you're talking to a guy who loves Jamie Foxx. I think he's great. Did you see Jamie Foxx in Baby Driver, by the way? How good was he in that? Anyway. But, nah, man. I mean, you got to look at him. You got to look at another Academy-nominated actor, Will Smith, who's a bigger draw than Jamie Foxx is. Will Smith has to fall in that category too. But really, when you're talking about the best comedian or television star or whatever to transition into movies, the conversation's got to stop and end with Tom Hanks. Right? The guy's got 2 Best Actor Oscars, numerous other nominations. He is just a gold standard of acting today, and he's a trusted figure in the industry. I think that's where the conversation. And I love Jamie Foxx. But I think even Jamie Foxx would tell you, "Oh, are you kidding? Come on, it's T. Hanks. T. Hanks." I think even Jamie Foxx would tell you that. But that's just my opinion. Okay, let's see. Sports CJJ981 writes, "Saw Green Book, expected good movie, but no one warned me about that great food. All that great food, great movie." I love Green Book. Now, I actually had a little bit of an opposite reaction because I didn't just expect, I was unrealistic with my expectations. I went in thinking that it was not just, because I saw the trailer for Green Book. I have no words for how good that trailer to Green Book was. I lost my mind when I saw that trailer. And I wasn't just thinking this could be the best movie of the year. I was thinking this could be one of the greatest movies of all time. That was just on a trailer, and I knew that. So I went in to see it, and while it is absolutely a great movie and deserves a Best Picture nomination, I couldn't help but have come out being a little bit disappointed. Only because I was expecting not just a great movie, I was expecting like one of the greatest movies ever made. And that's my fault. That's clearly my fault. But it is a fabulous movie. Mahershala Ali is going to get nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Viggo Mortensen's going to get nominated for Best Actor. The movie's going to be nominated for Best Picture. It's probably going to get a screenplay nomination. Might even get a director nomination. It's going to... Look, I think the 3 big ones going into the Academy Awards this year are... you got Green Book, in no particular order. You got Green Book, A Star is Born, and Roma. I think those are your 3 lead horses going into the Academy Awards. So it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of works out. But I'm glad you liked the film, man, because I really enjoyed it too. All right. Ant Banks, 1984 writes, spoiler alert, Avengers Endgame, everyone is coming back. Vision, Gamora, Odin, Killmonger, Uncle Ben, everyone who died of natural causes, and they all will fight Thanos with new iron spider suits. There you go. You nailed it. You absolutely nailed it, Ant Banks. I particularly am interested with it. Does anybody else find it interesting? Now, correct me if I'm wrong. You brought up Uncle Ben in there, Ant Banks. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe in either Civil War or Homecoming that we ever even see a picture of Uncle Ben. They certainly don't talk much about Uncle Ben, if at all. Like, was there any conversation or dialogue about Uncle Ben? I don't think there was. I could be wrong about that. But I find that interesting. I can't help but wonder if at some point they're going to introduce something. But wouldn't that be a kick in the teeth? Is if Uncle Ben shows up and he's the one to defeat Thanos. And Uncle Ben was just a nickname for his uncle, Fred Rogers. They just called him Uncle Ben. And Mr. Rogers comes back to defeat. Everybody was, yeah, but seriously, that's the other thing. Pardon me, guys. We know Vision's coming back because we got Vision and the Scarlet Witch television show coming to Disney Plus, their streaming service. It's just everybody's coming back. They're all coming back. Which was to tie back Ant Banks to one of the previous questions, is why I knew they would all be coming back. No matter who died in that movie, I just believe they're all coming. I just believe that about every character in Marvel. No matter who dies, I just believe they're coming back. Like, even when Nick Fury died in Winter Soldier, I knew, even they showed him on the hospital bed. And these insurgents say he's gone and blah, blah, blah. And they're in the morgue standing over his body. I still, he's coming back because this is what Marvel does. He's coming back. I just believe every time anybody comes even close to dying or remotely looks like they're dying, I just believe they're coming back. I don't actually believe they're gone. And the only one that they really haven't brought back that's been a hero is Quicksilver. That's the only guy they haven't brought back yet, and I'm not convinced that we're not going to see him in Endgame. I'm not convinced that we're not going to see Quicksilver in Endgame. I'm not saying we will see Quicksilver in Endgame, and Banks. Don't get me wrong, but I'm just saying if Quicksilver all of a sudden shows up in Endgame, I'm not going to fall out of my chair in surprise. That's all I'm saying. All right, thanks a lot for the question, Aunt Banks. All right, we move on now. Jordan's Channel writes, Dragon Ball Super Broly box office. Surprised? No, not really. I mean, like, it made about 2.4 on its opening night. I was guessing somewhere around the 18 range. Maybe it'll be a little bit north of that. So at this point, no, not really surprised. Like, I knew some people would go see it. I knew it wasn't going to make $100 million opening weekend, but I knew some people would go see it. And so I'm not surprised by it. Jordan thought the question was so important, he asked it again. John, you thought about it for 20 seconds. Let me ask you again. Dragon Ball Super Broly, is it surprising you? Nope, still hasn't surprised me. Still hasn't surprised me at this point. Let's see. Carnell B writes, I enjoyed Glass till the third act. I'm hearing that from a lot of people, Carnell. I'm hearing that from a lot of people. It seemed far too grandiose in its attempt compared to overall stripped-down nature of Unbreakable. Regardless, I was happy to see David and Elijah after so many years. Just wish it were a better movie. You know, I'm a little bit different from you, Carnell, in the sense that I did not like the first two acts of the film. I thought the first 15 minutes were quite good. You know, we get reintroduced to David, and you know he's with his son. They're running a home security company. I love that they kind of paint that picture. I love that. And then he's on the hunt for the beast. He finds the beast, rescues some girls. I liked it all up until that point. Once they got taken to the asylum, I thought, okay, now this is where the movie's really going to go, like on a more psychological, kind of like stripped down level. This is where it's going to be really good. And I just found it came out like a dud. I wasn't looking for big fights and explosions. No, I was looking for that stripped down, more psychological, philosophical battle, thing going on. And I thought it was very weak, very thin, very pandering. And clearly, like somebody else mentioned, just they didn't get the audience. In my opinion, at any rate. And then I'm hearing a lot of people, Carnell, complain about the ending. And while I think they did not stick the ending, I will say this, and I said this in my review, well, I'll say it again here. I can appreciate what M. Night was going for. Like, I could see what he was trying to do, and I thought it was pretty audacious and pretty ballsy. Did it work? No. And I'm not going to pretend that it worked just because he was going for something cool. It's great to go for something great. If you don't nail it, it still didn't work. It didn't work. But I can appreciate what he was going for. And I can't go into any more details than that because that would be a spoiler for everybody else who may want to still check the movie out. But yeah, I just remember walking out of that theater because Ann knows I was so excited. Me and Ann both went. She knows I was so excited for this movie. And I mean, first of all, McAvoy's performance might be even better than his performance in Split. His performance in this might be even better than his performance in Split, and that carries a lot for the movie. But they basically, the movie ignores Dunn. It basically ignores the Bruce Willis character. It's like the first 10 or 15 minutes is like, oh, let's catch up with Bruce Willis's character. And then he's an afterthought for the entire rest of the movie. That was annoying to me. That was a little bit annoying to me. I won't lie to you about that. So yeah, I just walked out really disappointed. Like, nobody get me wrong. Glass isn't a dumpster fire of a movie. It's not going to be on my top 15 worst movies of the year list when we get to the end of 2019. It's not that bad. It's just, to me, it's bad. And it had so much potential. And M. Night was on such a roll because The Visit's really good and Split's really good. And I was really hoping for him to bring something special to Glass. And to me, it just tripped over its own feet and fell on its face, to be honest with you. But that's just me. There are other people out there who like it, and that's great. I was just hoping for better. And apparently, Carnell, so were you. But that's where we are right now, my friend. That's where we are. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for sending in the question, man. I appreciate it. All right. Stubble McShave writes, it seems the Tolkien biopic will be released on May 10th. Yes, I finally heard that. We've been talking about that Tolkien biopic for quite a while. It's been sitting on a shelf forever. They shot that thing years ago. And a lot of us have started wondering, okay, so is it just going to end up on Netflix at this point, I guess? Is it just going to end up on a streaming service or something? And then they finally announced it's going to get a theatrical release. I don't know how wide of a release it's going to get. I do know I've been dying to see this movie. I'm excited about it. I love the cast. I like the director involved. Obviously, the subject matter is riveting to me to see a movie about J.R.R. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. And here's hoping it's good. Javier Rios 405 writes, what happens to The Gifted and Legion? Does Disney merger affect them? Well, obviously it affects them. How will it affect them? We don't know yet. I mean, that's up in the air. Whether Disney will take a show like Gifted and Legion and just cancel them. Whether Disney will take a show like Legion okay, let's put Legion aside because that's a little bit different. Gifted is a network broadcast show. I really like The Gifted. I like The Gifted a lot. So maybe they'll take that and just move it over to Disney Plus. Maybe they'll put it on a Hulu. Maybe they'll do something else with that. I mean, so they're both going to be affected. How they'll be affected, though, we haven't really heard them say. So we're just going to have to wait and see. Okay. Beeper 5 writes, over under 90 million for Captain Marvel opening weekend. Well, they're projecting right now maybe upwards of 140. So I think over 90 is probably the safe bet at this point. Marie Seifring writes, if a film project collects fees for product placement, can the revenue be enough to allow a limited market film to break even or make a small profit? No, for two very important reasons. Number one, it's not like Dell is going to give, Warner Brothers $100 million to feature Dell monitors. They'll give them a product placement fee, but it's not going to be like a titanic amount. But the other thing you got to keep in mind, Marie, with a specific scenario you just set up, a limited market film, how much is a company going to pay for product placement if it's just a limited market film? Next to nothing. Like maybe we'd give you $200,000 if this is going to play in 3,000 theaters across all the United States and in international markets, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you're going to release it in 100 theaters? In the US, like a limited market release, what's the worth of that to a company? Like that's going to exponentially degrade and take away any product placement fees. So I just think, look, I don't have the inside skinny on the exact numbers, but I just believe that people overestimate how much those product placement fees actually fetch. Now, I'm sure the bigger the film, and the more in your face they make the product placement increases up or down the amount. But I just think in general, I think people overestimate how much that is. It's a nice little sum of money. But for a limited market film, what's a company really going to pay for that? It's not worth it to them. They're not really getting anything out of that. So no, I don't think that would be enough to tip the balance or to make the difference there. Let's see. Justin is a square. I like that name, man. Justin is a square writes, Supernatural on its 14th season. Say that again, ladies and gentlemen. It's a show on its 14th season. Insane. It is insane, Justin. What is it that kept you hooked all these years, even though the show's low points, instead of bailing like other shows, cough, cough, arrow, cough, cough? I think there's a couple things. The main thing for me, I cannot speak for other people on this, Justin. All I can do is speak for myself as a fan. The main thing for me is what always had me hooked on Supernatural was the characters. I love the story right from the earliest stories with the yellow-eyed demon and all that kind of stuff, and then all the with the Lucifer and Michael stuff, and then the Leviathan stuff, and then they've had stories that I've really liked, yes, but the main hook to me has just always been the characters, Sam and Dean, and their dynamic, and the writing of the show, the dialogue in particular. Every week, I just look forward to hanging out with these guys for an hour on TV. And then you've had some incredible side characters. Castiel is a fan favorite. He's great. My favorite, though, isn't Bobby, and I love Bobby. My favorite was always Crowley, though. The King of Hell, Crowley. It was my favorite character on television for a while. That actor was in Battlestar Galactica, remember? He played the Doctor's lawyer. He was in my all-time favorite show, Battlestar Galactica, so he was in that as well. And I don't even know the actor's name. And that actor was also in the premiere episode of Firefly. So this one actor, whose name I don't even know off the top of my head, is in 3 of my all-time favorite shows. Crazy. Anyway. So when your anchor is just the characters and the dialogue and the relationship between the characters and the dynamic between the characters, then when you hit seasons that maybe the storyline wasn't as great, you're fine with it because the show is really anchored in these characters, and it's Sam and Dean are always on screen, man, and they're always interacting with either a Castiel or a Bobby or a Rowena or name the rest of them, any of the rest of them, or Chuck or Amara or whatever you'd have. It's always them. And because that's it, because your anchor is there, even when the story hits low points once in a while, it doesn't bother me and it doesn't faze me because I just love the characters and their dynamic. All right, thanks for asking, Justin. All right. Alvaro A. writes, when do you think the Star Wars Episode 9 title will be revealed? Well, if I'm not mistaken, Star Wars Celebration is in April, I believe. Let me just double check that. I believe it's in April. Star Wars Celebration, April 11th in 2019. I gotta believe that's when they're going to announce the title. I gotta believe it's Star Wars Celebration Chicago, which is in April. That's when they're going to announce the title. That just seems to make the most sense. Randall Cartwright writes, what does Randall Cartwright write? There he is. Randall Cartwright writes, do you and Ann ever want kids? They would be one lucky kid to have John Campea as a dad. Taking my son to his first movie was one of the best memories. Absolutely. As a matter of fact, Ann and I, last night, we were out for dinner at one of our favorite places in Burbank here. And we started talking about kid names. And we're not having kids yet, but probably relatively soon. Anyway. And I think we decided on names. I mean, these might change, but I think we decide on what our daughter's name is going to be, if we have a daughter. Shall I tell you what we talked about? I'll tell you, even though I shouldn't, but I'll tell you. Right now, we're really leaning towards... I don't know if I should tell you because I don't want people stealing my idea. Well, whatever. If you want to do this, it's fine. We're leaning towards Skywalker. We're serious. Like, we're dead serious. We are leaning towards, if we have a daughter... we are leaning towards Skywalker because you could just call her Sky. And we like that. Skywalker Campea. Skywalker Campea. We're leaning towards that. And for a boy's name, Anne is leaning towards Maximus. We love Gladiator. She's leaning towards Maximus. There's a part of me that would like to name our kid, if we have a son, Giovanni. Not just because it's my name, but it was also my grandfather's name that was passed down to me. For those of you who don't know, my actual name is Giovanni. So there's that. But we also talked about Han. We talked about Han as maybe a name. But anyway, those are some names. Those are some names we're kind of kicking around right now. All right, Flicks and Bricks writes, over or under 40%. MCU adamantium is synthetic vibranium. No, I think whenever they figure out what they're going to do with X-Men, whenever they get that all figured out, I think adamantium will probably be a newly discovered thing. I don't think they're going to tie in adamantium and vibranium. It will be interesting to see what they say is stronger. I believe in the comics adamantium is stronger than vibranium, I think. I could be wrong about that. But at any rate, I think they're just going to come up with something for it. James L.H. writes, "Hey, John, a while since sending in a chat. The live show is on when I am at work and want to say enjoy every show. Like the new podcast on Friday. Sympathies on your cough. I've had the same since Christmas. Yeah, my cough is still hanging in there, guys. Sorry about that. And for those of you who do not know, and by the way, no worries, James. I'm glad you're able to hang out here with us on the weekends then. Thanks for being here, James. I appreciate that. What James is talking about the podcast is, and I got to see if I can find it here. Hopefully I still have it. We started a new podcast. Oh yeah, I got a picture right here. It's called The John Campea Show, or TJCS, The John Campea Show. Best of the Week is the name of the podcast. Here's the thumb for the first episode. And it was me and Robert Meyer Burnett and our newest team member, Ashley Whalen, and that's her in the graphic there. It was kind of like to introduce people to Ashley and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, so we started a new podcast that we do on Fridays called Best of the Week, where we not only talk about our top 2 favorite news stories from that week, but we also talk about something else that was one of our favorite things of the week. Like it might be a new piece of tech, or it might be a new hot toy that Robert got, or it might be a brand new cell phone that just came out, because I'm a tech geek. Like, I'm all about movies, sports, and tech. That's just what I love. Anyway, like geek gadgetry sort of stuff. And we talk about our favorite things. And that's what we do. Now, here's the catch with the podcast. The catch is, so James, you are clearly a Patreon supporter. That podcast is exclusively for our Patreon supporters. So if you're somebody who's been thinking about becoming a Patreon supporter, there's another little perk. There's another little perk of being a Patreon supporter, is that we have this new weekly podcast called TJCS. Best of the Week is our new podcast. And thank you for listening to it, James. I appreciate that, man. And thanks for the commentary. I like that. All right. Marie Seifring writes, thoughts on John Bernthal joining the cast of The Many Saints of Newark, the movie prequel to The Sopranos. Thanks to the crew and all that you do. Well, this was actually one of the topics on the John Campea Show earlier this week. We talked about that. Love it. Love it. I love that they're going after talent like this. And by the way, they didn't just announce John Bernthal. On the same day, they announced I almost said Mara Vermiga. Why am I freezing on Vermiga's first name? Vera Farmiga. Thank you. So Vera Farmiga is also joining it. Crazy good. So this is a Sopranos prequel. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's going to follow Tony Soprano's parents. And Tony Soprano is going to be in the show. He's just going to be a little boy. He's just going to be a little boy in the show. I think it's great because we all know that within the next week or so, they're going to announce the cancellation of Punisher. We know that's coming. So Bernthal's going to have some free time for him to be in this. Now, how big of a role will he have? I don't know. Whenever Bernthal shows up in these movies, he's always a secondary or a third level character. Will he be a high profile character in this one? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I was very excited about it. I was very excited about it. All right. Patrick Conway writes, do you think Warner Brothers will do Wizarding World, Batman, or Superman shows for their streaming service? They'll make great rivals for Disney Plus, Star Wars, and Marvel shows. I don't know. I mean, really, it all depends. Number one, they seem to be souring on Batman and Superman. And they shouldn't, but they are. I mean, that's obvious. They're souring on Superman and Batman, and they totally shouldn't. Wizarding World, here's the problem. You're talking about very, very expensive shows to make. All of those would be very, very expensive. And with the diminishing box office returns for Wizarding World stuff right now, I don't know. I don't know. Obviously Disney is going all in on their streaming service, and they're going to put big money into their shows. Does Warner Brothers want to do the same? And that's simply an answer I don't know. Are they willing to go in and put in $100 million for a season of television? I don't know if they are. I don't know if they are. And if they do feel like they're in a place where they're ready to go in and put in $100 million on a season of television, do they feel confident enough in Superman? Because clearly they've lost a lot of confidence. They shouldn't, but they've lost a lot of confidence in Superman. They treat Superman like dirt. Are they really confident in their Wizarding World stuff? I don't know. Because I'll tell you what, if the next Fantastic Beast comes out and makes even less money than this one, they could cast a lot. Maybe they'll just feel, hey, the Wizarding World's done. I don't know. I just don't know where Warner Brothers' mindset is right now. So is it possible? Certainly. Do I think they'll do that? I just don't know. They haven't really tipped their hand on what their philosophy and their strategy is going to be. So we'll have to wait and see till they tip their hand a little bit more. All right. Taki75 writes, saw The Mule yesterday. Oh, it was really good. Great to see old filmmakers like Clint who care more about story and characters instead of visuals and spectacle. Well, I mean, look, I don't think that's fair to say. I don't think there are filmmakers who care more about visuals and spectacle. I just think there are filmmakers out there who visual and spectacle are just other tools in your tool belt. And if they fit your movie and they fit with what you're going for, go for it. That's clearly not the type of movie where visuals and spectacle doesn't fit into Clint Eastwood's filmmaking. Doesn't fit in there. You know, you got a lot of old-time filmmakers like Steven Spielberg, who loves to use as just another tool in his tool belt when he needs it. He loves visuals and spectacle. You know, he'll do Abraham Lincoln, but then he'll do Ready Player One. So it's just about the good filmmakers know that visual and spectacle are just tools in your tool belt. And some jobs you're doing require those tools. And sometimes some jobs you work on don't require those tools. And Clint Eastwood, look, when he finally does retire, if he ever retires, he's going to go down as what I believe is one of the top 10 directors of all time. I mean, when you just Mystic River, $1 Million Baby. I mean, this guy, Unforgiven. He's just made some. I think there is a solid argument to be made that when he does hang it up, he's going to go down as one of the top 10 directors of all time. Maybe not the Mount Rushmore, but top 10. So I'm glad you enjoyed that movie, Taki. All right, James L.H. writes, looking forward to this year's films. For me, Star Wars is my most anticipated. New Hope was the first film I saw as a kid in the 70s and have been a fan ever since. Well, I mean, that's very similar of my experience, James, because Star Wars was not just the first film I saw in cinema. Star Wars is my earliest childhood memory. Because I was 4 or 5 when my mom took me to see Star Wars. I have no other memories until I was like 10 or 11. But Star Wars made such it literally, that moment dictated the direction of the rest of my life. I fell in love with the movies at that point. Like a lot of you guys, all my bed sheets were Star Wars stuff. Everything I had was Star Wars. We got our first pet. It was a cat. I named the cat Luke Skywalker. I'm not kidding. I'm not joking. Our first family cat, I named Luke Skywalker. Can you imagine why the cat ran away? Anyway. Yeah, Luke Skywalker is the name of our cat, and it just set the direction for the rest of my life. I became a hardcore film fan forever because of that experience. So, yeah, I get you, James. I totally get you. All right. Dixon Whitesides writes, hey, John, listener from Charleston, South Carolina here. Do you think James Cameron's Avatar movies will be his last? 4 movies in a row seems like a lot. Thanks. I doubt it. Will they be his final Avatar films? Yes. A guy like James Cameron just kind of strikes me as the type of guy who ain't ever going to stop. Like, let me just look this up quick. Let me just do this. Hey, Google, how old is James Cameron? Google will tell me here in a second.
James Cameron is 64 years old.
Okay, so James Cameron's 64. I mean, he's like 20 years younger than Clint Eastwood. Hey, Google, how old is Clint Eastwood?
Clint Eastwood is 88 years old.
Okay, so he's a good 20 years younger than Clint Eastwood. And Clint Eastwood is still making movies. He's 24 years younger than Clint Eastwood, and Clint Eastwood is still making movies. So, James Cameron's a guy who's always trying to push things forward, always trying to do new things. I do not see him stopping anytime soon. I think he's going to keep making movies. Now, will it, again, I'm not quite sure from the wording of your question there, Dixon. Do I think it'll be his last Avatar film? Yes, I do think it'll be his last Avatar film. But would it be his last film, period? No. I mean, as long as he's healthy and as long as he's still got all of his faculties, which why wouldn't he, then I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon, my friend. I don't think he's going to slow down anytime soon. All right. Javier Riaz writes, do you watch Undisputed with Shannon Sharp and Skip Bayless? I tried. I love sports talk shows. Love them. But I just look, I'm not a huge Stephen A. Smith fan, but I just think Stephen A. Smith is much better at that job than Shannon Sharp is. And there was something about the dynamic between Skip and Stephen A. that they have not been able to recapture since Skip jumped ship from ESPN and went over to, I think it's Fox Sports that's on. Now, I did follow Colin Cowherd when he left ESPN over to Fox. I kept watching Colin Cowherd, but I don't know. I just found both, Stephen A's show without Skip and Skip's show without Stephen A. I find them both lacking. So I stopped watching the one, and then I tried watching the new one with Skip, and I gave it a shot, and it's like, just not working for me. There was something really great about the dynamic between Skip Bayless, and I don't love Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith, but there was something really cool with the two of them together. Anyway, okay. Spencer Main writes, The Office, the greatest sitcom of all time. It's in the argument. Now, to me, this will vary from person to person depending on who you ask. For me, there's a 3-horse race for greatest sitcom of all time. And that 3-horse race is Parks and Rec, which not everybody will agree on, but that's kind of my third selection that I put in there. And then the other two, most everybody will agree on. Seinfeld and The Office. They're all bloody brilliant. All of those shows, I can play roulette with all those shows. And what do I mean by roulette? I mean this. I can go on to Hulu or Netflix or any streaming service, right? I can bring up Parks and Rec and then play. I can close my eyes, and Ann and I do this. We do this. We can close our eyes and then just start hitting the button a random number of times, scrolling through episodes and seasons, and then just hit OK. And we know whichever episode it landed on, it's going to be awesome. And you can do that with The Office, and you can do that with Seinfeld. All three of those shows you can play roulette with, and no matter what episode you land on, you know you're going to laugh. So I'm not ready to say that The Office is definitively the greatest sitcom of all time, but for me, it's in the conversation as one of the top 3. It's in that debate. Seinfeld, which I think a lot of people would have up there. Office, which I think almost everybody will have up there. And then I think a bunch of people would have different ideas of what the third horse in that race would be. For me, it's Parks and Rec. I love that show. So those are the ones for me. Spencer follows up with, Ashley's a great addition, by the way. Ashley has been. Here's the funny thing about Ashley Whalen is that I did not hire her to be an on-camera personality at all. She's a model. She's an actress. She's a great administrator. She's super good with social media, so she's helping me a lot with social media. But the main thing I was hiring was an assistant, both a production assistant and a personal assistant. Because my last assistant, Mariah, unfortunately, her circumstances changed and she couldn't be my assistant anymore. My loss. Mariah was great. But you guys never met Mariah. But one of the things that I really wanted to do, because I'll be honest with you guys, my throat is getting worse and worse. And I don't mean from being sick. I just mean in general. Talking for an hour to an hour and a half to sometimes 2 hours straight takes a toll. Every day, sometimes twice a day. Having Robert on the John Campea show with me has certainly helped a lot. But I always thought there's no reason I should be reading the emails and read off the questions. And honestly, when you take all the live questions that come in and you take the email questions, that's an equivalent of about 6 pages worth of reading. And it doesn't need to be me reading those things. So when I was looking for an assistant, when I was putting out the job postings for an assistant, one of the things I include in the job posting is, hey, on top of all these other responsibilities, I'm also going to need somebody to be willing to be on camera and read off questions and interact a little bit. Don't need somebody who's a film expert. Don't need a pundit. I don't need an analyst. I don't need an expert. I just need somebody who's got a half-decent screen presence, can get on camera, feel comfortable, and read things off. So, but it wasn't the main thing I was hiring for. As a matter of fact, I didn't even do a camera test. I had about 100 plus resumes come in. Almost no guys applied. I had like 10 guys apply. I still have no idea why. Guys seem to be allergic to the term assistant. And I had like 10 guys apply. Anyway, not that I care. It's just, why aren't guys applying? Why not? Anyway. I didn't even when I invited about 20 people to interview, I didn't even give them a screen test because that wasn't the important thing. It was all the other responsibilities that were important. And then when I came down to my final 2, then I gave my final 2 screen tests just to see, well, which one of you guys can do this part a little bit better. Anyway, at the end of the day, I ended up hiring Ashley just because she wowed me. In our first interview, she wowed me with her social media prowess. Because, hey, look, I got a lot of compared to some people, I have 0 social media followers. But compared to some others, I've got a lot of social media followers. I've got like tens and tens and tens of thousand people who follow me on Facebook. I got like 25,000 followers on Instagram, even though I don't use Instagram very much. And like Ashley's giving me a hard time now. She goes, you need to use Instagram better and you need to use it more. And here's how you're going to do it. So she's like cracking the whip on me already. And I've got like 80,000 followers on Twitter. And so I know social media, but I'm telling you, my first interview with her, she was like, boom, boom, boom. This is what you need to do, John. You need to do this. I looked at your social media. You're not doing this. You need to do this, blah, blah, blah. This is what I'll do with your social media stuff. I'm going to do this, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, wow, like this person can really help me. And then her camera test was good too. And honestly, I didn't know. Like, I got to say something here. You guys remember earlier this year or earlier in 2018, I brought in Courtney. I loved Courtney. But from the first day that I brought her on the show, the reaction was fairly negative. I still don't understand why. I personally found that very hurtful. But, you know, people didn't like Courtney. At least as an on-camera person, it didn't work. And I don't know why, but they didn't. So I ended that experiment. And so honestly, when I had my first day last week that we were going to put Ashley on camera, I bit my tongue and held my breath for after the show was done, going back and reading the comments saying, oh God, please don't let people all gang pile on her and say they didn't like her. I was so relieved to see everybody liked her. So yes, we're really happy. And then look, you're not going to see her on there all the time. And by the way, I don't know how long Ashley's going to be around. She's a working model. She's got shoots all the time. She's a working actress. She's in a bunch of stuff. She might be around for 2 months and then just get too busy, which would be awesome. If she got really busy with her other stuff that she couldn't do this job anymore, that would be awesome for her. But I'm hoping she's going to be around for a while, but I'm glad you guys liked her, and I've liked having her around, and Robert and I really like having her around too. Thanks for the comment, Spencer. Anyway, I went long on that, but anyway. James L.H. writes, I watch football, soccer, as you guys say. As a sports fan, who understands fan rivalry, I've never understood it in film. Love Star Wars and Star Trek, same as MCU and DC. I've never put verses between like we do in sports. Here's the thing, James. I think it's fun. It's fun having Star Wars versus Star Trek debates. It's fun having this debate. It's fun. But you're right. I've never understood, as a sports fan, as somebody who grew up with the blood feud between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens, I understand blood feuds. I've never understood why that comes into play in movies. But I'll tell you why it does. Because some people are so weak mentally, they're so weak that they don't feel justified or validated in their opinion unless somebody else's stuff is torn down. I only feel good about myself and liking DC as long as we put down Marvel, because that's what validates my opinion, you know? And I think there's a little bit of that. There's nothing wrong with two people being in a chat room, one saying, I like Taken. The other guy says, I like John Wick. Well, I think Taken's better. Well, I think John Wick's better, and here's why. Well, I think Taken is better, and here's why. And having that good debate and discussion. But what we see in fandom, unfortunately, James, a lot is that there are people who are so weak, they don't feel validated in their opinion if other people have different opinions. So here's a great example of some of the nonsense that, we all, as film fans, we all have to put up with. I'm a film fan, so I have to put up with it too. Here's a great example. I didn't like Glass. I wanted to like Glass. I was excited about Glass. I like M. Night's previous two films, The Visit and Split. I was excited about Glass, and I didn't like it. So I get a lot of messages from good movie fans who are like, oh, John, I really did like it. I thought it worked. And from other people, John, that sucks you didn't like it. I was riveted the whole time, and I enjoyed it the whole time. Good movie fans. But then you get the weak-minded little peons who are so insecure about their own self and about their own opinions that if somebody else doesn't validate their opinion, they feel threatened, and therefore they lash out. And you recognize this all the time. So somebody who did like Glass, but is one of these insecure, fragile little kittens, they see that I didn't like it, and unlike a emotionally secure person who goes, oh man, that sucks that you didn't like it. I thought it was great. I was riveted the whole way through, blah, blah, blah. That's what an emotionally secure person does. What these fragile little kittens do is go, wait a minute, I liked Glass, and that guy's saying that the movie isn't good. That threatens me because it invalidates my opinion. It doesn't, but they're so fragile little kittens, they go, that threatens me and invalidates my opinion. Therefore, I can't engage with that. I have to lash out. And so, after I say I didn't like Glass, which sucks, it sucks that I didn't like Glass, but I didn't. After I say I didn't like Glass, I get a bunch of emotionally secure people who like the movie going, John, oh man, I wish you liked it because I did, and I liked it because of this, and for me it worked on this level, and this level, and this level, so I disagree with you. Great, emotionally secure. But then you see that band of merry, fragile little kittens going, you didn't like Glass? Well, you liked Batman versus Superman, so who cares what you think? They're so fragile and so weak and such delicate little kittens that for somebody to say that they didn't like a movie that they liked, they take that as a personal assault on them because they're so weak in their own opinions that they feel invalidated if somebody says they didn't like something that they did. So instead of engaging like the emotionally secure fans did, they lash out as a way to try to re-self-value themselves. You see what I'm saying? To reestablish their own sense of worth because their sense of worth got hurt because somebody didn't like a movie that they did. And, that's just part of the psychology of it. But we see it every day. You see it as a film fan every day. I certainly see it as a film fan every day. And we just need more emotionally secure fans who like, oh man, you didn't like this movie I loved? Well, that sucks because I liked it, man. Why didn't you like it? You didn't like it because that? Oh man, I gotta disagree because I like blah, blah, blah. Those are the fun conversations to have. It's these fragile little kittens that you didn't like a movie I liked? Well, poo on you. Poo on you. There you go. There's a new t-shirt I got. Yeah, we'll poo on you. Anyway. All right, let's move on here. Ben Hayusa. Ben Hayusa writes, so I guess you can say Glass was ass. Well, look, honestly, I thought it was a disappointment of a film. I think it's a bad film. Do I think it's hot steaming garbage likened unto Assassin's Creed? No. Do I think it's hot steaming garbage like a number of other really bad hot steaming garbage movies? No. I think it's a bad film, but that's all it is. I just think it's a bad film. Lots of bad films. Like I said, it's not going to, I really don't suspect that by the end of the year, it's going to end up on my top 15 worst films of the year or anything like that. It's just a bad movie, disappointed me, let me down. I thought it was a missed opportunity. I didn't think it was ass, though. I didn't think it was complete ass. Because, if nothing else, James McAvoy's performance is stellar. James McAvoy's performance in that movie is ridiculous. Just ridiculously good. Speedfire writes, waiting to hear about a potential Leicester City FC movie. Their story is one of the greatest in sports, 5,000 to 1 odds to win the league. And they won, I remember that. They won the Champions League, right? And they were like complete out of nowhere. I don't follow soccer at all. The only time I pay attention to soccer, and this is neither good nor bad. I'm just saying I don't follow soccer. The only time I follow soccer is when the World Cup comes around because I'm Italian. And Italy always does pretty well. And they didn't even qualify for the World Cup, this past World Cup. So Italy needs to be there, and they weren't there. Well, if Canada's in there, obviously Canada didn't make it. They never make it. Well, then maybe I can at least cheer for the Americans. The Americans didn't make it either. So I had no team to root for in the World Cup. So I didn't end up watching the World Cup this year, which really sucked. But yes, that is a story that maybe somebody should do. That is a story somebody should do. All right. Chris Cortese writes, okay, John, who you got, Pats or Kansas City? Well, I mean, I'm clearly rooting for the Pats. I am. I'm clearly rooting for them. The Patriots have already beaten the Kansas City Chiefs this year once, but it was a tight game. It was a close game. That game could have gone either way, but the Patriots won. Now, I thought I keep wanting to say the San Diego Chargers. I thought the Chargers, the LA Chargers, I thought this was their year. And I honestly thought the Chargers were going to beat the New England Patriots last week. I was cheering for the Patriots, but quite honestly, I got to still be realistic. I'm going to cheer for my team. Even if I think they're going to lose, I'm going to cheer for them. But honestly, I thought they would lose. And they just destroyed the Chargers. Just spanked them. Honestly, I don't know. If I had to put $5 on it, I'd probably guess that Kansas City's going to win that game. I would guess Kansas City's going to win that game. But after watching what the Patriots did last week, I'm not sure. So I'll tell you what, though. I got to love this Kansas City Chiefs brand of football, man. And it'd be great to see Coach get into the Super Bowl again and maybe even win one this time. Andy's has been like one of the all-time great coaches. It would be great to see him go there. But obviously, I'll be cheering for the Chiefs. Both of these games look amazing. Pats, Chiefs, Rams, Saints. Two in both of those games could be the Super Bowl. Those are two Super Bowl-worthy games. What a weekend if you're a football fan. What a weekend. Anyway, Speedfire writes, Also, Fantastic Beasts 3, nothing to worry about. Warner Brother wants a cheaper movie, and they need to rework the script for that and to iron out plot holes for fans. Well, they tried their best with the last one, too. It's not like they went into the last one and said, well, let's not. By the way, I like Crimes of Grindelwald. I'm not even a big Potterhead, but I like Crimes of Grindelwald. I thought it was pretty good. I thought Johnny Depp was actually quite exceptional in it. If anything, the problem is that J.K. Rowling is doing the scripts herself. Maybe she should just come up with the story and then hand it off to screenwriters to actually write it. I don't know. But it's not as if they didn't try to do something amazing with the last one. They tried their best. And they're going to try their best for the next one. Will they have better results this time? I don't know. We'll have to wait and find out, but we will find out. All right. Colby Harris writes, started watching The Office today. I love it. Good on you. There's still, The Office now is actually old enough that there are a bunch of people who still haven't watched it. You will never regret starting to watch The Office. One of the all-time, maybe the greatest all-time comedy on TV. If not the greatest comedy of all time, at least one of the greatest all-time comedies. I trust you're going to really have a good time with that, Colby. All right. Zach Bartran writes, I've wondered, did The Last Jedi even have reshoots, or were they so minuscule that we didn't need to hear about them? Here's the thing, Zach. Last Jedi went in for reshoots, but I think film fans have now finally started, because for years I kept trying to tell people that a movie's going in for reshoots. And that used to, years and years ago, when a movie was going in for reshoots, that was a bad sign. Today, though, it's not. Kevin Feige's gone on record and said, we plan reshoots for all of our movies. Because we just know, because they have the budgets for it. Most movies don't have budgets for reshoots. But these big blockbusters, there's more riding on it. So they plan in advance time for reshoots. They don't know what it is they're going to reshoot yet, but they know they're going to want to do some reshoots, and they plan them in advance. It's not a bad sign. And I think most film fans are now understand that. So when The Last Jedi went in for reshoots, nobody freaked out about it because it's like, oh yeah, every movie with over like $130 million budget will go in for reshoots. And it's like, people just understand that now. Guitar Dude, 513 writes, oop, sorry, we had a jump. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. There was a lot of questions. Okay. I wasn't prepared for that. Okay. Guitar Dude, 513 writes, hearing New Mutants might get moved to Hulu. Yeah, okay, wait, okay. Everybody, stop what you're doing and listen to me here, okay? Stop what you're doing and listen to me. You know where you heard that, Guitar Dude? I'm not going to name the website, but a website is running with this story that New Mutants, there's talk that New Mutants might get pulled off the release schedule and put directly to Hulu, which has always been a possibility, right? That's always been a possibility. But this website, do you know where they got that story from? Do you know? They got it from a Twitter account of a guy who's got 230 followers on Twitter. That's where they got it. And I guess to this website, that's a legit source. A dude who has 230 followers on Twitter, he said it on his tweet. That's a source. Let's run a headline about it. And look, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm certainly not saying that's impossible. I'm just simply saying, oh my God, how pathetic has our entire industry come when I saw some guy with 230 followers on Twitter say something. That's good enough for me. Let's run a headline. And again, a few months from now, we may find out that New Mutants moves to Hulu or moves to Netflix or moves to Disney Plus or moves to something. It might. But to run a story and you find out, oh, what's your source? Oh, your source is some random dude who has like 230 followers on Twitter. And he got it from his Twitter account. Good enough. Let's run a headline. And again, I am not trying to besmirch the credibility of the dude who wrote it on Twitter. I'm just saying that maybe major news outlets shouldn't pick up and run as headlines things that get said on that. That's why I'm always telling you guys, follow the source. Find out who the source is. Don't just look at the headline. Go into the story and say, what's their source here? And maybe the source is, the Hollywood Reporter is saying this. Or, the assistant director on the movie said this. And, this guy who's been a 20-year film journalist said it. Or is it some random Twitter account of a guy who's got like 230 Twitter followers said it? And that's enough to run I don't know. It just makes me scratch my head a little bit. Anyway, let's go on. Guitar Dude 513 follows it up with Affleck and Cavill still having a film on their contracts and Warner Brothers not wanting to commit to solo movies, I'd love to see a world's finest team up. Here's the problem, Guitar Dude. First of all, I'm right there with you because I love Henry Cavill as Superman and I love Ben Affleck as Batman. However, the problem is, right now, Warner Brothers seems to be in a frame of mind of, we've done a movie with two of them together and we did not get the results that we wanted. Is there any legitimate evidence at this point to convince Warner Brothers that you make another one with the two of them together and it'll do gangbusters? I don't think there's any evidence there that suggests that. If anything, Warner Brothers is thinking the evidence tells us we need to move away from Batman and Superman. And I'm not saying I agree. I'm just saying that seems to be where their frame of mind is at. So, and look, I keep telling you, I've been telling you guys for years now, Ben Affleck still has one film on his contract. That doesn't mean they're going to do it. That doesn't mean they're going to use him. But I've been saying since the day I told you that Ben Affleck was done as Batman, I've told you, but there is a 50-50 chance that he may appear in one more because he has one more movie left on his deal. And Warner Brothers will have the option as to whether or not they want to use him for it. Or just cut bait and let it go. We don't know yet. So, I mean, I would be down for that. I mean, Guitar Dude, you and me could sit down and watch that movie all day, I'm sure. But it does not sound like there's any way Warner Brothers would even want to look at that. Wait, we're going to invest another $175 million on a pairing on screen that we've already tried a couple of times and it didn't work? I don't think that's where Walter Hamada's at right now. Hopefully I'm wrong. And then you and me can have a party about it. But it just doesn't seem like that's the direction they're going to go. All right, let's move on here. Marv Diesel writes, better actress, Nicole Kidman or Cate Blanchett? Oh, God, that's like saying, what's better, Godfather 1 or Godfather 2? That's tough, man. Because these are both goddesses. These are deities when it comes to acting. I'll lean towards Blanchett, but it pains me to do it because, wait, you're not going to say Nicole Kidman? Kidman's amazing, but I guess if you're going to put it to me like that, I will lean towards Cate Blanchett. I'm going to guess Cate Blanchett. All right. KW Garrett 83 writes, Glass was just okay to me, not great. No spoilers, but considering that ending, do you think the Shamhammer is planning sequels or is this the end? Well, I think it's one of those things where, like a lot of movies, I don't think this is giving anything away to say that, yeah, Glass ends in such a way that it could be the just the end, or it could lead into another movie, depending on how you wanted to do it. And I think a lot of movies set up those types of endings, where you end the movie and it is a definitive ending, but there are also threads there that if you wanted to make another film, you could. Obviously, everybody loves franchises because franchises makes the money. So There's nothing, M. Night or Jason Blum would have loved more than to do more of these things. So I think it's possible. Look, we'll have to see the financial results of this movie. This movie makes $250 million. They're going to look at doing another one. For sure. I think they're definitely going to look at doing another one. Okay, let's go on here. Hector Jeter writes, ride out with me, ride out and meet them. For death and glory, for Rohan, for your people. The horn of Helm's hammerhand will sound in the deep one last time. The king of Rohan. Jeez, can you see the goosebumps standing up on my arm? Holy crap, just thinking of that scene. Oh, the Lord of the Rings films are so freaking dumb. They're dumb, they're so good. Like, it shouldn't be allowed. There's so many great moments in each one of the 3 films. It's just staggering. I love that moment, man. Ride out with me. Ride out and meet them. For death and glory, for Rohan, for your people. Oh, anyway. You got me. You got me in the feels, Hector. You got me in the feels. All right. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, I'm watching the 2008 Hulk again. Wow, John, I didn't know you were a soldier in your spare time. Ha, cool grenade launcher you got there. Okay, so yeah, a lot of people know because they shot a lot of the Hulk in my hometown of Hamilton. So I got to go to that. I was an extra in 3 scenes. I've had a couple of people send in to me, you were in this? Yes. I've had a couple of people send to me, you were in this scene? Yes. I've never had anybody been able to tell me all 3. Because it's easy to miss me. It's not like I'm a guy who runs onto camera, like here's the frame and I run into frame. And then run off camera. Like, no, I am like in one scene I'm a little prominent, I guess. The others, you'd have to really know what you were looking for to see me. But I'm glad you caught me in that, Angry Irish. I'm glad you were able to catch me in one of the scenes. All right. Ben Burnside writes, will you watch the Dragon Ball Z film that's in theaters? Nope. If you like good storytelling along with big fight feels such as UFC, then this is much. Here's the thing. Look, I do not besmirch anybody who likes Dragon Ball Z. But I tried watching Dragon Ball Z because a bunch of my friends love Dragon Ball Z. And my friends tried to get me to watch it. I'm like, okay, let's give this a shot. I gave it a shot. I do not find the storytelling very good, and I just find it doesn't work for me. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say it shouldn't work for anybody else. I'm not going to say that other people shouldn't love it. Not at all. But Dragon Ball Z does not work for me. The Dragon Ball stuff does not work for me. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So no, I have no interest in the film. I'm not going to bother wasting my night to go see it when I already know it's not for me. But if it's for you, awesome. And I hope it does well so you guys can get more of that content, but it's just not for me. So yeah, I'm not going to bother with it. Let's see. Edgar Navarro writes, is the Campea Ranch an actual ranch or just a name? It's an actual ranch. It's got horses and animals and barns and hundreds of acres and a little lake and wilderness and ATVs and out. Yeah, no, it's an actual ranch, whether you want to call it a ranch or a farm, whatever it is you want to call it. Nope, it's an actual place. It's an actual place, and I love going there. Let's see. Hector Jeter writes, I'll never forget when I first saw that 4th Eorlingus scene in the Two Towers. Such a beautiful, epic scene. I still get chills every time. I just can't even say the word, man. I know the scene you're talking about, but I can't even say the word. So there's that for you. But it's still the whole thing. Like, me and Robert were talking the other day about Lord of the Rings, and the scene where, the ending of Return of the King and Strider has been crowned King of Gondor, and they approach the hobbits, and the hobbits start to kneel, and the king goes, my friends, you bow to no one. And the king kneels in front of these hobbits, and all of Middle-earth kneels. There's so many moments like that. So many. It's just kind of awe-inspiring and stupid and great all at the same time. All right, let's move on here. James LH writes, I said earlier I don't watch live. When I found your channel last summer and joined Patreon, amazed watching the growth, all the work you and your crew put in, glad to just be a small part of helping. James, no, the gratitude is all mine. I am the one who's grateful. Not just for you and for being a Patreon supporter and for being somebody who joins in the film fan community and comments on shows like this, but also to all of my Patreon supporters and all you guys who send in super chat questions and come here and watch the videos, whether it's live or after the fact, whatever. I love this community. I love what you guys have built here, and I love being a part of it. And I'm very, very grateful, guys. I'm very, very grateful that you make it possible for this channel to even exist. And, you know, I was able to bring on a Ray and a Jonathan and a Robert now, because I pay Robert, and Ashley, because I pay Ashley, because of all this, and including my Patreon supporters. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. I need more Patreon supporters now, because I am now, bringing on Ashley as well has kind of, I'm spending too much. I'm spending too much, but I like giving people work. I'm spending too much, so I'm hoping with the new podcast and stuff like that, we're hoping we can attract more Patreon supporters. But for those of you guys who've been Patreon supporters and been Patreon supporters for so long, thank you for your support. You guys are why we've been able to have this growth, so I really appreciate that. All right, final question, and then I'm going to take a 5-minute break because I need to get more stuff to drink, and I just need to give my vocal cords just like a 5-minute rest. So we're going to take a 5-minute break here after this next question. And the next question comes to us from Robert Tari, who writes, I think we'll look back at the past 15 years of animation and wonder how the Oscars never nominated some of the best for Best Picture. Inside Out, Coco, Finding Nemo, Zootopia, Iron Giant, Ratatouille, The Incredibles, etc. Robert, there was a stretch there where like 7 out of 9 years, there was like a 9-year stretch where like 7 out of 9, it might have been 6 out of 8 years. Let's say 6 out of 8 for argument's sake. There was a stretch of about 6 out of 8 years where the number one critically rated film of the year was a Pixar film. And none of those years did those films get nominated for Best Picture. Now, we've seen a couple of films get nominated. Beauty and the Beast was the very first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture. And it was a long time till another one did. But eventually another one did. Toy Story 3 got nominated for Best Picture. Up got nominated for Best Picture. We're seeing it come around a little bit. But yes, absolutely. There are going to be years that we look back and go, wait a minute, Ratatouille, which is not just a great animated movie, it is a great movie. It should have been nominated for Best Picture. WALL-E should have been nominated for Best Picture. I'm not going to sit here and say it should have won Best Picture. I'm just saying it should have been nominated for Best Picture. There are a number of these films that should have been nominated. And were they to come out today, I would guess they might even get nominated today, but it took the Academy a few years to kind of learn that lesson. And I'm glad we're in the era we're in now. We're seeing animated films get nominated for Best Picture. We're seeing animated films get nominated for Best Screenplays and things like that, which is great. And I just like the direction things are going. All right. For now, guys, we've been going for about an hour and a half. I am going to take a 3 to 5 minute break. So hang in there with me. We're going to take a 3 to 5 minute break. I will be right back. If anybody jumps in the chat board saying, when's the show start? Because maybe they're new, just let them know we're going to get started again. I'm going to go refill my drink, take a Halls, give my throat just a minute to recoup, and I'll be back in 3 to 5 minutes. Hang in there with me, guys. We'll be right back. All right, guys, and we are back. So you're gonna have to forgive me. I've got a halls in my mouth. I know this sounds a little bit irritating when someone's got a halls in their mouth and they're talking, but I have to because you notice I started choking and got so I gotta have halls in my mouth. But we are ready to pick back up. I told you guys we're gonna keep going as long as we need to today to get through all of our questions, and that's what we're gonna do today. So let's jump back into our questions. And the last question we ended off with was Robert Tari. So let's move on now to Bullet 1510. And Bullet 1510 writes the following. Regarding the Ancient One in Endgame, back in 2017, Mark Ruffalo commented how much he had enjoyed working with both Tilda and Cate. So is Hela back too? I don't know. Honestly, I don't know that Tilda is going to be there either. I just don't know. I know I've heard this and I've heard that and all. I get that. I'm just saying at this point, I don't know that I've seen enough to convince me of anything one way or the other right now. And Mark Ruffalo certainly ran his mouth a lot. So I don't know. Look, we could see everybody who's ever appeared in the MCU pop back up, or they'll keep it a little bit more limited. I don't know at this point, but anything is possible. It's certainly possible at this point, Bullet. It's absolutely possible at this point. All right. JCL Productions writes, I've rewatched the first season of The Wire and wow, forgot how good that show is. The Wire is a show that I was very late to the party on. I had never seen The Wire till about 2 years ago, I think. And I finally said, like, I've heard because whenever you hear conversations about best TV show of all time, The Wire is always in the conversation with people. And there are some people who just flat out insist that The Wire is the single greatest show of all time. So I was like, okay, I got to watch it. Now, I binged the entire series in about a month. I binged the whole series in about a month. And I'll say this. I don't think personally The Wire is in the conversation for the greatest show of all time, but it's awesome. It is a great show. And here's the funny thing, because The Wire, I believe, was also an HBO show, I think. When you watch The Wire for the first time, oh my God, you can see how that show influenced a lot of shows that came after, including Game of Thrones. There are so many narrative devices that they used in The Wire that totally Game of Thrones just kind of took and transferred in there. Now I know you say, wait a minute, what does The Wire have to do with Game of Thrones? I'm just telling you, watch The Wire and you will totally see the influence it had on a lot of HBO shows, not excluding Game of Thrones. That show had a massive influence on Game of Thrones. Not to mention, there are a couple of Game of Thrones cast members that came out of The Wire as well. But including Littlefinger. Littlefinger came out of The Wire. Anyway, yeah, you're right, man. Fabulous show. If you've never watched The Wire, yeah, you kind of owe it to yourself to try to watch The Wire. All right. CK Gould writes, is Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and E.T. in the same universe? No. But John, in the prequels in the Senate, they had E.T. creatures. I know that was an Easter egg. That was a funny thing. No, they are not in the same universe, not at all. All right. Brian Esparza writes, if Avengers go back in time to retrieve the stones, someone would need to get the Soul Stone, thus making a sacrifice like Thanos did to Gamora. What if Cap and Bucky go there and Cap sacrifices himself? Okay. What if? You've gone down so many. When you have a question that is a what if built on top of another what if, that's then built on top of another what if. Brian, what am I supposed to say? Okay, what if they go back in time? And what if going back in time, the point was to retrieve stones? And what if they needed to make a sacrifice to get the Soul Stone? And what if the two that went to get the Soul Stone was Captain America and Bucky? And what if Captain America? That's a what if on top of 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 a what if. Well, then that's what happens. I mean, you kind of answered your own question, Brian. What if this, and then what if this, and what if this, and what if this? Well, you just answered it. You answered it yourself, my buddy. Again, why even speculate? It's a what if. First of all, what ifs are totally, they're hard. They're what if questions to start with are problematic to try to answer. A what if on top of another what if becomes really problematic. A what if built on top of a what if, built on top of another what if, and then a fourth what if, and then a fifth what if. Well, then now it's just like, well, what if Frosty the Snowman is actually Satan and he comes to Earth riding in a Knight Rider car and then unleashes a hammer like Thor? What if that happens? Well, then I guess that's what happens, right? There's so many variables to that. It's hard to know where to start, Brian. What if this, and then what if that, and what if this, and what if that, and then what if this? I don't know. But I don't know that self-sacrifice would do the job. You have to sacrifice that which you love the most. Captain America does not love his own life the most. So him sacrificing himself wouldn't do the job. If anything, Captain would have to throw down Bucky. If you have to sacrifice that which you love the most, Cap loves Bucky more than his own life. He's already shown that a few times. Sacrificing yourself doesn't do the job. That doesn't do it. You have to sacrifice that which what you love the most. And then maybe, well, what if Bucky then throws, well, then I think the Soul Stone won't see through that loophole. If Captain America goes there willingly to do it himself, it's not the same thing. I don't know. So there's a lot of what if discussions we could have there, though, man. There's a lot of what if discussions we could have there, though. All right. Aaron Kin writes, not sure if you've discussed this, but what's up with Shazam's suit? Looks cartoony. Yeah, it does. But look, I've always said you should not just assume you can just go and take the exact design of a superhero costume that's in the comic books and expect it to work on the big screen. Shazam's costume does not look great in live action. It's a pretty damn faithful translation from what's on the printed page. It doesn't quite work. But honestly, to me, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's just a costume. So I'm not going to get too worked up about it. The costume's not going to make the movie any better or worse. If the costume was the best costume ever, it wouldn't make the movie any better or any worse. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I think the Shazam costume is a great example. You need to do some adaptation. Some costumes lend themselves better to come right to the big screen than others. I don't think Shazam was one of them, but it is what it is. Brian follows up. As far as Bucky would be undusted since it's in the past. Again, another what if. Yeah, he would. But again, there's a logic problem there that you have to sacrifice that which you love the most. And I don't think it can be willingly. I don't think Captain America can just go, don't worry, Bucky, I'll just throw myself in. Whee! Like, I just don't think that counts. I don't think you can fool the Soul Stone with that loophole. You got to kill something that you love the most. So in that scenario, Bucky would either have to unwillingly kill Cap, or Cap would have to kill Bucky, who doesn't want to be killed. I think that's the logic of it, but I don't know. We'd have to wait and see. All right. Ben Rayner writes, I forgot before The Force Awakens, John Boyega was on a few episodes of 24, final Jack Bauer season. I don't recall that. Then again, it's not like I watched the final Jack Bauer season with a lot of interest. I had tired of the show kind of a little bit by then. Loved the first few seasons of 24. But to me, he'll always be the kid from the one with the alien invasion. The one on the block. I can't remember the name of the movie now. With the alien invasion. Why am I forgetting the name of the movie? Anyway, that's what I'll always remember him from before Star Wars. JCL Productions writes, hey, John, best movie news show out there. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. I think so, too. But anyway, I'm biased. I'm clearly heavily biased. Not Your Average Gamer writes, watch Social Network again. Garfield was amazing. I tell you what, Andrew Garfield brought any sense of humanity in that movie came from Andrew Garfield. I wholeheartedly believe Andrew Garfield should have not only been nominated for Best Supporting Actor that year, he should have won. But John, Christian Bale in The Fighter. Christian Bale was not the supporting actor in that way. I will argue anybody. I will debate anybody, anywhere, anytime on that issue. You said Mark Wahlberg and Christian Bale were co-leads in that movie. There's no way you can tell me I will never believe that Christian Bale was the supporting actor in that. He should not have been nominated in that category. They only nominated him in that category because I believe it was the same year that The King's Speech was out. And Colin Firth was nominated for The King's Speech, and everybody knew Colin Firth was going to win Best Actor for The King's Speech that year. Damn right. He was amazing in it. So they go, oh, well then, let's just say Christian Bale was a supporting. He wasn't a supporting actor. And Andrew Garfield never got nominated for that. He should have got nominated, and he should have won. Because he made that movie. That is a cold movie without any sense of humanity or heart to it if it wasn't for the Andrew Garfield character. Everything else in that movie worked because Andrew Garfield brought that. But anyway, now I'm just getting caught up in it. I rant on that for a long time. But I'm glad you saw it. It's a great movie. It's a really great movie. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, keep one, lose one. The Dark Knight or the Avengers? Ooh, it's tough, but I think the greatest superhero movie of all time is the Avengers. I think The Dark Knight is a tight race. It's close. And there are many others who believe that The Dark Knight is the greatest comic book movie of all time. That's cool. I won't argue that. But for me, it's the Avengers. So it would pain me deeply, but I would keep the Avengers and lose The Dark Knight. All right. Randall Guzik writes, finally saw Aquaman. Simply pure fun to me. Made me smile from start to finish. Reminded me of the 80s and 90s comics where he had next to no crossovers. Never once thought about Justice League not being there. Thanks. Again, there's only one minor reference. And if you blinked, you missed it. The only reference to a larger DCEU universe was when Mera first shows up and she says to Aquaman, you defeated Steppenwolf, blah, blah, blah. That's it. There's absolutely no other reference to the DCEU other than that one quick, if you blinked, you missed it reference. And I think the movie was stronger as a result. Because you could argue and say, well, why didn't Aquaman go and ask Superman for help? Aquaman liked Cyborg. He said, my man. Why wouldn't he go get my man to come and help him? I mean, I get why he wouldn't go and get Wonder Woman. Because now he's macking on Mera and he doesn't want to cause some jealousy. Right? Doesn't want to cause any jealousy there. So, okay, I get why he doesn't go get Wonder Woman. But why not get my man? Why not go get Cyborg? Why not get Superman? Why not go get the help? Because they wanted to keep it as a standalone movie. And I think that was very bright of them to keep the references to the expanded DC universe to a minimum. And I think you're going to see them do the same thing in Shazam. Now, we already saw in the trailer, there's a newspaper article and that, but I think that's going to be pretty much the extent of it. A few references here and there, and they're going to pretty much ignore it. They're going in the direction of standalones now. And I think Aquaman kind of tells us a lot. I think Aquaman tells us a lot about the future plans they have for the DCEU. All right. Brian Esparza follows up. Are there any books you recommend for filmmaking? Yes, I do. Damn it. Where do I have it right now? You know what? I will put it up in a social media post or something. I just know it is my thick yellow book. I bought a number of years ago. I think it's called Guerrilla Filmmaking. It's this big, thick, yellow-covered book. And I read it so many times, but I never actually look at the cover, and I'm freezing on, and I've got it around here somewhere. Anyway, that's the book I would recommend, Brian. Keep your eyes open. I'll try to make a reference to that book. I'll find it here sometime after the show, and I'll try to bring it up. You know what? Keep an eye in the comments section of this video. Keep an eye in the comments section of this video because I'll go find it and then I'll go into the comments section and leave the name of that book. So it's a great question, Brian. So keep your eyes open for that. All right. Francisco Orozco writes, in 1995, John Mason, Sean Connery, stole a Humvee while trying to escape the FBI. What car would have stolen if The Rock had happened in 2019? Oh, I don't know. I am not a car guy. I have a dream car. My dream car is a 1969 Corvette Stingray. That's my dream car. But I don't know anything about. Unlike a lot of other guys, there's a lot of stereotypical guy things about me, but there are a few stereotypical guy things that do not apply to me. And one of them is knowing anything or caring much about cars. I don't know much about cars, and I don't care much about cars. So it's a good question, Francisco. I'm just the wrong guy to ask. That's it. It's like asking me, what's your favorite brand of lipstick? I don't wear lipstick. I don't know. I'm the wrong guy to ask. It's a great question. I'm just the wrong guy to ask. You guys in the live chat board, answer Francisco. Tell Francisco what you think the car would be that Sean Connery would steal today. Best Sean Connery line in that movie, by the way. Your best? Losers whine about their best while winners go home and fuck the prom queen. Best Sean Connery line ever. Totally inappropriate, but a great line. It's coming from Sean Connery's mouth. It makes all the difference in the world. All right. Ewan Fitzhugh writes, love the show. Never miss it. Favorite British actor. Ooh, favorite British actor. Whew. Geoffrey Rush is amazing. The aforementioned guy from The King's Speech. I just said his name, and why am I freezing on it right now? From Kingsman. Why am I freezing? I just said his name. Of the whatever. He's great. God, I love Henry Cavill right now. I think he's amazing. Sir Ian McKellen is amazing. I don't know. That's a long list. That's a long list, man. I'd have to sit down and really think about that one. C.K. Gould writes, Netflix is rebooting Unsolved Mysteries. I heard about that. My brother-in-law, Ray, who is the Ray on this show, Ray, he watches all kinds of shows like that. He watches tons of those. So I'm sure he's got to be really happy too. Chris Cortese writes, just picked up the complete series of Three's Company. Bravo, sir. Now, I will say this. Three's Company was still okay after the original three weren't there anymore. Because the original three was, I believe her name was DeWitt, Summers, and Ritter, right? Those were the three actors. Or Jack, Chrissy, and Janet, right? Were the character names. They were the original three. That was when Three's Company was at its best. Once they started swapping out, like I think the first one to go was Suzanne Summers. I think she was the first one, and they got Chrissy's cousin. I think another blonde came in into the show. And the show was still good, but it was never the same after that original trilogy. But that's a show that we don't talk about. I don't know why, but you're right. We don't talk about Three's Company much. That was a great show. I used to watch as a kid. I mean, it was before my time, but I would watch the reruns of it. I always thought that show was hilarious. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, see the trailer for The Kid Who Would Be King? Yes, and I'm torn. I saw it once. I thought, that looks pretty good. And then I saw it again. I thought, well, that looks stupid. No, that looks stupid. Then I thought, oh, maybe it's pretty good. I don't know how to feel about it. But I know Patrick Stewart's in it, and so you've got my attention. But I don't know whether I think it looks good or if it looks horrible. I'm kind of torn on it. I'm going to have to wait and see. Michael Bradley writes, just saw Bumblebee and wow, it was good. I loved Bumblebee. So pleasantly surprised with that movie. Travis Knight brought what none of the other Transformers movies, even the first Transformers movie, which I love. I love the first Transformers movie that Michael Bay did. All the rest of them were total shit. But Travis Knight brought heart to Bumblebee. He brought heart to the Transformers universe on screen. Bumblebee is a wonder. I even like Bumblebee more than Aquaman. And I really liked Aquaman, but I think I like Bumblebee even more. Wonderful film. I'm glad you had a chance to see it, Michael. I'm glad you liked it too. All right, let's keep going here. Murray Reich writes, when do you think approximate Star Wars talk will be back? I honestly don't know. I just don't know. I've said for a while that I will bring Star Wars Talk Tuesday back when I can find an appropriate co-host for it with me. Then I will bring back Star Wars Talk Tuesday. But it's got to be something who has great on-camera talent and great Star Wars depth of knowledge. The fact of the matter is there's not a lot of those people, and I have no interest in doing it with people I've done it with before. That's not me saying anything negative about people I've done it with before. I have moved on. I don't want to go backwards. Let's just say that. I don't want to go backwards. So, and those people are few and far between. They're very few and they're very far between. I know a lot of people who are very, very good on camera talents, but don't really have a lot of Star Wars knowledge. I know a lot of people that have incredible depth of Star Wars knowledge, but may not necessarily have a really good on-screen talent and on-screen ability. And I need somebody who's got both. Once I find that person, I will start doing Star Wars Talk Tuesday again. But I'm not going to do it by myself. And I'm not going to do it. You guys deserve better than for me just to get somebody to put a warm body on camera. I'm not going to do that to you guys. So honestly, it could be another 3 weeks. It could be another 3 months. It could be another year. At this point, Murray, I just don't know, to be honest with you, because I don't know who that person could be right now. But we'll wait. Matthew Gomez writes, in your review for Glass, you said they were pandering to the wrong person. From a person who knows nothing about comics, I thought it served the narrative great when they explained the comic tropes. And I think right there, Matthew, I think you just kind of summarized the problem for me. Because as a comic book fan, I got to tell you, I got sick of it. And I found it sickening that they thought so little of comic book fans. Because seriously, I joked about it earlier in the show, but how many times did they even say the word superhero in the movie? Had to be 20, 30 plus times. Superhero, superhero, superhero. Look, kids, we know what you guys like. Superhero, superhero, superhero. Keep saying superhero, 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 superhero. Comics, 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 comics. Superhero, superhero, superhero. It's like, see, we know what you like. We got our fingers on the pulse of the young generation. We know what's going on. I got sick of it. You know, when you go back to Unbreakable, they reference that stuff here and there, but it's so much more subtle. When you have to constantly tell your audience over and over and over again, this is our metaphor, this is our metaphor, this is our metaphor, this is our metaphor, then it's not a metaphor anymore. Now it's just irritating. And it's clear that you're just pandering to this group of people and you don't even understand us. You don't even understand us. Because if you did understand us, you know we don't want you saying superhero, 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 superhero over and over and over again. You know that actually bugs us. Or at least a lot of us. Not all of us. A bunch of us, though. Now, you, Matthew, then are coming at it from a different point of view. As somebody who knows nothing about comics, you actually maybe found that a little bit useful. Great. I can't speak from that perspective. That's the experience you had, but I think that just kind of illustrates the point. But I'm glad it worked for you. But I'm saying as a comic book fan, I could see them trying to ingratiate themselves to me, but doing it so over the top and so shamelessly that it just became irritating. And it wasn't effective, at least not for me. But like I said, there are many people out there who do like the movie, and that's great. Nothing wrong with that. But yeah, you speaking from a point of view as not being really a comic book fan kind of illustrates that for me, somebody who is a comic book fan, it really just struck me the wrong way. So that was kind of the difference in experience. But that's why movies are subjective. We all approach these movies from a different context, from a different perspective. And depending on the perspective we approach the movie with, the movie will hit us in different ways. It hit me a certain way because I came from one perspective. It hit you in a different way because you came from a different perspective. And that's the beautiful thing about movies, man. That's why I love movies so much. All right, thanks for sharing that, Matthew. Ben Burnside writes, I never audibly shouted in excitement in a movie like how I did in Dragon Ball Super Broly. That is the fun thing that happens with these niche movies. Well, I mean, I have in a number of movies, whether it's Dark Knight or whether it's The Avengers or whether it's Captain America Civil War. I mean, it's great. But that was clearly a movie. Like we said before, Ben, like we all approach this movie from certain contexts. In the context you're in, that movie hit you a certain way and you screamed in excitement. Beautiful thing about films. It's always great when you can go to a movie and treat it like an event and cheer and clap and stomp your feet and have a good time. That's always great when we can do that. All right. Carlos Camejo writes, did you ever expect / want an all LA Super Bowl? Oh, I'll tell you what, I thought there was a possibility. Because again, I thought the Chargers could beat the Pats. I thought they would beat the Pats. And once they beat the Pats, you're damn right, I thought those Chargers could beat the Chiefs. I really did. I thought the Chargers could beat the Chiefs. I mean, they've done it. And I think there is a good chance that the Rams can beat the Saints. I also think there's a good chance the Saints can beat the Rams. But yeah, I honestly thought an LA Super Bowl. I was talking to Ann about it. Ann and I were talking. It's like, you do realize there's a chance here we could end up with an all LA Super Bowl. A city that a few years ago didn't even have a single NFL team. We could have an all LA Super Bowl. But now we might have a no LA Super Bowl. So I'll have to see how that works out. Javier Arias 405 writes, my favorite parts of the Thor franchise is when they're on Asgard and not on Earth. Here's hoping for Thor 4 with Beta Ray Bill. To me, it's not about the environment. It's about what environment is best suited for the story you're trying to tell, right? With Thor 1, I loved all the stuff on Earth. Thor 2, The Dark World, not as much. Not as much. But again, it's not about whether the movie takes place on Asgard or whether it takes movie on Earth. Anybody who tells you the movie will be better if it happens here, well, then you're getting ahead of yourself. You start with the story you're trying to tell. Then you figure which characters will help us best tell that story, which environments, which contexts, which whatever, what serves the story we're trying to tell best. I think Thor 1's story is best told on Earth. Thor the Dark World story is probably best told avoiding Earth. Honestly, maybe none of that movie should have happened on Earth at all. It all depends on the story. So, again, right now, we don't know if Thor lives or dies in Endgame. We don't know if there's going to be a Thor 4. But if they do, I'm not going to cheer for an environment. I'm going to cheer for a good story. Now, if that story's best place is Asgard or in one of the other realms, great. If it's not, if it's on Earth or somewhere else, great. Wherever the story is served best, that's where you tell your story. And they certainly did that with Ragnarok. Turned out great. And it worked out for Thor 1. Not so much for Thor 2. So let's see where they go with this. But I would love to see, oh man, Javier, I'd love to see another Thor. I would love to see another Thor movie. All right. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, Anthony Hopkins was great as Odin. Perfect casting. It was wonderful. Oh, so good. So good. And I remember I was at the press conference for the first Thor movie. And Anthony Hopkins talking about he did it because his grandkids want to see him. And he was just so good because he speaks with power and authority. Few people can command a room like Anthony Hopkins, Sir Anthony Hopkins, like the way he does in character. It's amazing. Like when only a guy like Anthony Hopkins can turn to a Chris Hemsworth, like in that scene in the first Thor, when Thor and Loki and their friends go to attack the frost giants and Odin goes there to put a stop to it. And, Odin shows up and Thor goes, yes, father, we'll fight them together. And Anthony Hopkins turns to him and says, silence. The way he says it, like very few actors can pull that type of authority the way he did. I loved him as Odin. I would have loved to have seen Odin throw down with Thanos. I really would have. Let's see. Nicholas Lim writes, Hey, John, superb channel. Thank you so much, Nicholas. Watching since 2013, 6 years. Thanks so much for being along for the ride, Nicholas. Thoughts on Bond 25? Casting should be soon. Hope it's great. Craig deserves a great final film. Well, the audience deserves a great final film. We hope to see a good one. The Daniel Craig films seem to be go off and on. One film, magnificent. Next one, kind of weaker. The next one, magnificent. The next one, kind of weaker. Here's hoping they go off on a real strong note. As far as casting goes, whatever. Look, the Bond films, particularly in the Daniel Craig era, they've always done a great job with the casting's always been great. The casting's always been great. So I'm not really going to lose any sleep over that. I trust the casting's going to be good. But it's going to be incredibly curious to see what kind of story they're going to do. What kind of story are they going to do? I'm excited for it. I really love the Bond franchise. Daniel Craig is my all-time favorite Bond. Yes, even more than Roger Moore or Sean Connery. So I'm in with you, man. I really hope they give him a great son. Because he's been, even in the not-so-good Bond movies, he's always excellent in the role. So I'm really looking forward to see how they send him off on that. Thanks for sharing that, dude. All right. Javier Rios 405 writes, what would you like to see the Shamhammer tackle? Would you like to see the Shamhammer tackle a franchise that's not his own creation? I don't know. Because we saw him direct a film that wasn't his creation, which was After Earth with Will Smith and his kid. And that didn't work out so well. If anything, I think I think M. Night can be a very talented director when he's creating his own stuff, but he's got somebody holding a leash. When M. Night became big and powerful and popular and said, screw you to everybody trying to tell me how to do my job. I don't need to listen to anybody. Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make my own decisions. I'm not going to listen to anybody's opinions. That's when things got really crappy. His partnership with Jason Blum has been great. You got somebody who can actually pull the leash back on him a little bit, but still let him do his thing. I am not deterred by not liking Glass. Even though I didn't like Glass, I still think Shamhammer is 2 out of 3 with his last 3 films. The Visit was solid. Split was solid. So to me, I'm still on the Shamhammer train. I am still on the Shamhammer train. I will look forward to what he does next, even though I didn't like Glass. But I just think he is most comfortable as a filmmaker doing his own thing. So if they announced he was doing some other franchise thing, I'll be curious to see it. But I'm more comfortable seeing him do his own stuff. But that's just me. All right. CK Gould writes, more scared of slasher or supervillain? Oh, supervillain. Because slasher just put a knife in his chest. He's dead. Slasher just cut off his head. Supervillain? That brings a whole different swath of problems, my friends. Brings a whole different swath of problems. All right. Nate Smith writes, thanks for your hard work. You and Rob are my daily fix. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. I know Rob has really appreciated all the well wishes and the kind words you guys have given along the way. And we're really having fun doing the show, man. I'm having a great time doing it. And thank you for sharing that kind comment, Nate. I really appreciate that. All right. William Rivera writes, hey, John, me and the future wife started marathoning Supernatural from the beginning. What a great damn show. Always makes me happy to hear more people are checking out Supernatural. Love that show. Love it. Can't get enough of it. We talked about, I believe, maybe one of the very first questions of the day today was surrounding Supernatural. And it just, great characters, great dialogue. Year in, year out, I always find myself, now there are some years that are better than others. There are some seasons that are better than others. But I just always find myself enjoying the ride. Always enjoy the ride, and I'm glad you guys are too. And let me know once you finish it and once you get caught up to where we are now. Once you get caught up, let me know and let me know what you're thinking of it so far. I'm liking this season so far, by the way, too. All right, let's see here. Beruz writes, I don't like theories, but anyway, here's mine. In Endgame, Tony lifts an object and lets people escape, hence him not surviving. A reference Steve says in Avengers 1 would be a very good throwback. I don't know. That would feel a little too contrived. To have him die just the way Cap challenges him in the first Avengers, that seems very forced and contrived. By the way, there's a lot of people out there who 100% believe Tony's going to die in this movie. I'm not so sure that he does. I'm really not. I don't even know that I give it a 50% chance that he dies. I kind of think he doesn't die. If I had to put $5, only 5, I'm not willing to bet 100. Again, I think it's close to 50%. There's certainly a chance he dies. Absolutely there is. 100% there is a chance he dies. But I don't think he does. I don't think he does. I don't think he dies. I don't think Cap dies. I don't think Thor dies. So, or maybe all three of them do. Who knows? We're going to find out soon enough. But I think as an audience member, I may roll my eyes a bit at that. If they do it in such a way that it's a complete reflection of something Captain America said in the first film, to me that would feel a little bit forced. I wouldn't be down for that. If he dies, but I'm sure of this. If Iron Man dies, if Tony dies in Endgame, I'm sure it will be done in an act of sacrifice to save others. As how they try to have most heroic deaths. Most heroic deaths in movies are at the behest of sacrificing oneself to save others. And I'm sure if Tony dies in this movie, it'll be in that vein. I'm sure it'll be in that vein. All right. Bullet 1510 writes, I'm really excited for the new Loki show. Me too, man. Do you think it will be a character piece, a Lord of the Rings or Game of Thrones action fantasy set in Asgard or something else? Oh, really don't know. I do believe this. I don't think it'll happen on Asgard. I don't think it'll happen on Asgard. Why? Because that's more expensive. Now, I don't know that for sure. But I'm sure Disney is probably looking to do these shows in such a way that it doesn't cost them $100 million a season. Doing it on Asgard would present some challenges. And it may very well. It may very well. But I don't know. I'm kind of down for a Loki god of mischief on Earth. I'm kind of down for that. I think look, I'll be happy either way. Like you, Bullet, I just want to see this Loki show. I'm excited for the Loki show. I want to see it. So you and me, brother, we're all on the same page. I don't know. I think maybe some on Earth. But who knows? We'll find out pretty soon. All right. Tech Odyssey writes, Captain Marvel or Shazam, the other Captain Marvel? I don't know what you're asking. Pizza or steak? Which is the better source of protein? Which tastes better? Which goes better with football games? I don't know what you're asking, Tech. Sorry about that. I don't know. It depends on what you're asking. If you're asking one question, it could be one. If you're asking another question, it could be the other. So I'm not sure. Sharan Aurora writes, started a podcast with my friend today. That's cool. We are amateurs, but it was a ton of fun. We roasted glass to shreds. God, that was terrible. Well, yeah, I mean, look, there are going to be people like you, Sharan, and me who didn't like the movie. Again, I don't think it's not going to be my top 15 worst of the year or anything. I didn't think it was a steaming pile of garbage. I just didn't think it was good. And that's just kind of where I land on that. But good on you for getting a podcast going. I think more film fans need to lend their voices, and it doesn't matter if you have 5 people listening or 5,000 people listening. I just think it's great to add to the conversation, and I'm glad you're doing that, and I hope you have a good time doing it, man. All right. Zach Kaplan writes, according to the New York Times, Game of Thrones makes HBO more than $1 billion annually. How do studios calculate how much money they make off shows when customers pay the same flat fee? I don't know. I can only guess because I'm not a television industry expert by any stretch of the imagination. I think what they probably do is a little bit of extrapolation. So they take how many subscribers they have, what type of viewership that show gets, and then they probably extrapolate, then therefore probably this percentage of our viewers are here because of Game of Thrones. And that percentage of our subscribers equates to about $1 billion a year. Again, I don't know if that's the case for sure, but my guess would be it would be a matter of extrapolating how many subscribers you have, how many people watch Game of Thrones, and then how many people who watch Game of Thrones are specifically HBO subscribers just because of Game of Thrones, and then you extrapolate what the dollar value amount of that would be. So it's probably a little bit of a guess. It's probably a little bit of a guess, but I'll tell you what, Zach, I don't know that that guess is all that off. I don't know that that guess is all that up. I wouldn't doubt at all if it generated about $1 billion a year for them at all, which is why they've got multiple spin-off shows in the works, because they love that money. Factual opinion writes, watching Django Unchained. God, I love this. That movie's so good. So good. I remember I was going into it, and even though it was Quentin Tarantino, I don't know, something about the marketing for it didn't feel right to me. To this day, I can't put my finger on it. Something about the marketing did not look all that good to me. And we knew that Will Smith had turned down the role, and maybe some of you didn't know that Will Smith was originally offered the role of Django. He turned it down for really dumb reasons, but I won't talk about that now. Anyway, and I just couldn't get excited for it. I just couldn't get excited for it. But then I watched it, and oh my God, I love that movie. That movie's so good. Jared McBride writes, I'm excited for Captain Marvel. It comes out on my birthday. Happy early birthday to you then, Jared, in case I miss it later. And thank you for all you do for us movie fans. Stay awesome. Thank you so much, Jared. And it's always great. For me, see, my birthday is on February 26th. So there are some years when the Oscars actually fall on my birthday. And if they don't fall right on my birthday, they usually fall pretty close to my birthday. So that's my birthday present every year. But it's always really cool when a big movie's opening and you realize it actually opens on your birthday. That's exciting. So yeah, I'm looking forward to Captain Marvel 2, man. I haven't been in love with the marketing. I like the trailers, but they haven't blown me away. But I'm still excited to see it because, hey, it's Kevin Feige. Let's see here. Dirk Diggler writes, I am enjoying Star Trek Discovery, and diehard Trekkers should get on board. The problem Trekkers have is that liked the motion picture, but audiences cannot connect to that. I enjoy Abrams' version also. I got to tell you what, I just finally watched episode 1 of season 2 yesterday, which it just premiered. Really liked it. And to my surprise, even Robert Meyer Burnett liked it. And Robert Meyer Burnett hates Star Trek Discovery, but even he liked the season premiere of season 2. Look, I do not believe in making excuses as to why other people don't like something I like. But what I will say is that in my conversations with people who did not like and do not like Star Trek Discovery, in my conversations with these people, what I have observed is that it usually comes down to it's not the Star Trek I grew up with. Now, I'm not saying that's why anybody who doesn't like the new Star Trek stuff doesn't like it. I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm simply saying my personal experience has been that when discussing Star Trek Discovery, it usually with somebody who doesn't like the show, and I get them to explain to me why they don't like the show. Not that they owe me an explanation. You never owe anybody an explanation for not liking something. But when we would discuss it, it usually comes down to, the thing is, the original Star Trek did this and this and this. And I don't interrupt them. And I'll be honest with you, I've had this conversation with Rob too. Whenever I get in this conversation about Star Trek Discovery with Rob, it usually goes to Rob saying, well, because in the original Star Trek, they did this and this. And I want to say to him, but we're not talking about the original Star Trek. You got to let that go. And I remember Rob and I were in my car the other day, and we were talking about Star Trek. And I said to him, dude, you just got to understand, Star Trek was dead. Public lost all interest in the franchise. Its box office was, and like it just tanked. Nobody was watching it anymore, and nobody cared about it anymore. You cannot just keep doing the same thing and expect the fan base to come back. They had to change it up and try something different. And that's why when JJ's movies came out, they made a hell of a lot more money at the box office than the previous films did. And he acknowledges that. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. Look, everybody has their own reasons for why they do or do not like something. But again, I just say that I have had a number of discussions with people who don't like Discovery. And when I talk to them, what I find more often than not is it's rooted in the fact that it's not like the original Star Trek. And they're right. There are many things about this Star Trek that are different, but it's a very good show, in my opinion, at any rate. And I've been appreciating it. I've been appreciating it a lot. But not everybody will, and that's totally fine. All right, thanks for sharing that, Dirk. All right. Next up, Static Space Sean writes, literally just walked out of Glass. I really enjoyed it. I thought McAvoy's performance was captivating. It's only January, but is it Oscar worthy? Oh, I think it's a bad film. So no, it's not Oscar worthy. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, unless you're just talking about James McAvoy's performance. Because while this is a bad movie to me, it's a bad film. James McAvoy is stupid good in it. The problem is it is far too early to even pretend to judge. Yeah, if nothing else, if no other great performances come out this year, then yes, James McAvoy's could get Oscar consideration. But it's Oscar worthy is never in a vacuum. It's always in comparison to what other Oscar potential stuff is out there. And we just don't know what that is until we see the movies. I will say this. The Academy is always hesitant to nominate performances from movies that just aren't good movies. And that's unfortunate because sometimes there have been great performances in bad films. I think this is an example of one of those. Look, I'll say this. If the Academy Awards for the 2019 movies were coming out today, you're damn right I would give the award to James McAvoy. Because he is, even though I think the movie is bad, he is ridiculously good in this movie. Shockingly good. It's crazy what he does in this movie. All right. Mike Hill writes, over under 30%. Batman shows up in Arrowverse next year. Man, look, a year ago, I would have said 0%. 0% chance. But what we've been seeing is that more and more Warner Brothers has been loosening the restrictions on using Batman or Superman. Clearly, they threw the restrictions out the window with Superman. They brought him in to job to Supergirl and to make him look like an idiot every chance they get, which pisses me off. But I think they're loosening. Look, we've got Batman and Titans. We got Batman talked about here. I'll say this. If Batwoman does go to series, then I would say, I'm not going to say Batman will show up, but I will take over 30% that he does. At this point, I'll take over 30%. And I never would have said that a year ago. But today, yeah, I got to say it's definitely a possibility. All right, James L.H. writes, on your show, you talked movies, 1989 Indy and The Last Crusade, my favorite. I remember waiting years for the next indie film and hearing Bond play his dad. God, Sean Connery playing his dad was brilliant. The funny thing is now, Harrison Ford is like 8 years older now than Sean Connery was when they shot The Last Crusade. Or some stupid number like Harrison Ford is now older than Sean Connery was when Sean Connery played his dad. Put that into perspective. That to me is crazy. But I mean, there you go. Yeah, and Sean Connery's actually only like, I can't remember exactly, but I think Sean Connery's only like 15 years older than Harrison Ford. He shouldn't have been playing his dad, but he was so good in that movie. Only the penitent man shall pass. I love Sean Connery in that movie. He was so good. And you're right. That was such a great thing to hear. Sean Connery was going to be playing his dad. It was perfect at the time, man. All right. Zuza, you writes, happy 300 episodes Supernatural. God, it's like, seriously, 14 seasons. Even the best shows in the world don't make 14 seasons. It is crazy that this show has lasted that long. It is crazy that show has lasted this long. Like, I still remember when it hit its 100th episode. Like, that's a major, for a show to hit its 100th episode is a milestone. 200 hardly ever happens. 300 is amongst some of the most rare things that happen in television. When you consider all the shows that have ever come on television, it's a very, very small number that have ever actually hit 300. All right. Bullet 1510 writes, Iron Man and Thor, a misdirect in the Far From Home trailer? I'm not quite sure what you mean, Bullet. The reference, how is a reference a misdirect? Yeah, I'm not quite sure what it is you're asking. Because obviously, like, at one point the guy says, he's like Thor and Iron Man and Flash combined or whatever, or Iron Man and Thor combined. I'm not quite sure how a reference can be a misdirect, so I'm going to guess no. Angry Irish Benjamin writes, I think the Hulk killed you. Rough deal, man. Yeah, I had a pretty rough deal in that movie on several levels. Someday I will tell the story of my experience on the set of the Hulk. It wasn't a positive one. It wasn't a positive one. I still don't feel comfortable sharing the story. But someday I'm going to share the story of my experience of being, because I was there for multiple days, being on set of the Hulk. And someday I'll tell that story. I'm just not comfortable to do it yet. Zesty writes, should The Flash get a new showrunner like Arrow? I don't know. Look, I did not like Flash last season. Last season was the first season of The Flash that I did not like. I like this season so far. So far, I like this season. So, but I don't know. It's never a bad thing for a show to shake it up a little bit, get in a different showrunner, bring in a couple of new writers just to shake it up. That's never a bad thing. So, should they? I don't know. I don't think I'll say they should, but I'd be open to it if they did. Javier Riaz 405 writes, of the 24 James Bond movies, how many of them are bad? Over half? Oh, no, I wouldn't say half. Nah. To me, there's only really 5 or 6 of them that are bad. And there are bad ones. Well, no, that's not true. Maybe it's more like, it's not half. Maybe 8 or 9 are bad. Oh, maybe 10? Now you're getting close to half. I'll still say under half. Juan Morin writes, one of two. When the Smallville battle happens in The Man of Steel and Faora is getting rid of several soldiers in a few seconds, my imagination moved to that scene to Star Wars, Vader destroying rebel scum. Have you ever imagined a scene placed in another franchise? Ooh, that's an interesting question, Juan. Have I ever imagined a scene taking place in another franchise? No. It's a great question, and I'm sure many of us have, and maybe I have at one point or another, and I just can't think of it right now off the top of my head. But I can't think of such a time that happened for me. But I love the example you're using, though. First of all, you guys know how much I love Man of Steel. And that scene, that battle in Smallville is so great. It's so great. And you're right, it is very reminiscent of Vader wrecking some fools. It's absolutely reminiscent of that. But yeah, no, just to answer your question directly, though, I don't think I've ever imagined one scene being in a part of another. I don't think I have, but maybe I have and I just haven't thought about it. Guys, jump into the chat board and let Juan know if you've ever done that. If you've been looking at one scene in a movie and thought, oh, I could totally just transport this scene from this movie into another movie. That would be an interesting kind of game to play. All right, thanks for sharing that, Juan. All right, ZOMG Ruler writes, I think the DCU will have some cameos going forward. It's possible. Cameos, sure. Again, it's just you got this Warner Brothers exec saying, we're moving away from shared cinematic universes. That doesn't necessarily exclude cameos. I think cameos might be fair game. Fred F. writes, saw Glass, really liked the premise, including the last act, but I felt the execution was weak and the comic book preaches was just bad. Such a waste. And again, I don't think Glass is completely awful, but I thought it was poor. And what really makes it disappointing was I thought there was so much potential there. And I'm with you, Fred. There was a lot of potential. The premise was great. Bringing these franchises together, making one shared story out of it that really do very organically fit together if you handle them the right way. I think it's great. There was so much potential here, and I just kind of felt they squandered it. Doing the things exactly, Fred, that you just kind of pointed out that they didn't. And that's unfortunate to me. All right. ZOMG Ruler writes, my dad changed cats' names from Darth Vader to E.T. Well, mine was Luke and always stayed Luke. All right. Mike Thompson writes, I still can't believe DC celebrated Superman's 80th anniversary by dropping him from all future movie plans and making him a jobber on CW. Dude, look, I'm a fan of Warner Brothers. I'm clearly a big fan of Warner Brothers. And I'm a fan of their DC stuff. But I'm disgusted by what they have done to Superman. I love him in the movies, but what they've done to Superman in their television universe is unforgivable. Unforgivable. Now, I've kept watching Supergirl only because Sam Witwer's in it. I'll support anything Sam Witwer's in. So Sam Witwer's in it, I'll watch it. But fuck Supergirl. Fuck that show. You have the potential to be a really good show, and you decided the only way we can do it is to shit all over the granddaddy of all superheroes and make him look like a joke as often as we can. That's unforgivable to me. You can't do that to Superman. And I'm really nervous now that they're going to do the same thing to Batman. Or they might do the same thing to... They might bring in a Wonder Woman character just so they can shit all over. It's like, I'm sorry, she's one of the holy trinity of all-time superheroes. You cannot do that to Superman. You cannot do that to Wonder Woman. And you cannot do that to Batman. And they seem to be doing that. And screw that show. Screw that show. Anyway, Ben Rayner writes, Michael, I love this TV. LOL favorite episode. Are you talking about the dinner episode? The dinner party episode? The dinner party episode when he's got his, what is it, like a 12-inch plasma TV hanging out. It's like, he's so excited he's got this plasma TV and it's like this big hanging on the wall. The dinner party episode is Anne's favorite episode of The Office. She quotes that episode all the time, man. If that's the episode we're talking about. Zelda Ninja writes, thoughts on Iron Man trilogy? Thanks. As a trilogy, not great. I thought Iron Man 1 is fantastic. Iron Man 2 crapped the bed. And Iron Man 3 was okay. I liked Iron Man 3. I didn't think Iron Man 3 was great, but I like Iron Man 3. So overall, as a trilogy, it doesn't measure up to, say, the Captain America trilogy with First Avenger, Winter Soldier, Civil War. It doesn't live up to that. And I would even say the Thor trilogy has been better. Like, both of them, the first ones were great. The second one's kind of crapped the bed. The third ones were good, but Thor's third one, Ragnarok, was great. And I think Thor's first movie was better than the first Iron Man 2. So, yeah, overall, Iron Man trilogy's fine, but it doesn't live up to the character. It doesn't live up to the first movie, so not great overall. Let's see. ACAP writes, what do you think about the good feedback on Dragon Ball Super Broly movie and making $7 million? Well, from what I heard, it made 2.4. The additional money might be from another thing, whatever. Look, here's the thing. The only people going to see Dragon Ball Super Broly are people who are already predisposed to liking it. That's just a fact. You're not getting non-Dragon Ball fans going to see Dragon Ball. So I expect a couple of things. Number one, that people who are Dragon Ball fans are going to go see it. And that the people who are already Dragon Ball fans are going to give it a positive review. That's what's going to happen. So, no, that doesn't surprise me at all. And I also have very, very little doubt that I would go see it and not like it. Because I know Dragon Ball doesn't work for me. But my friend Dave Z, I have no doubt that when he goes to see it, he's going to love it. Because he is a Dragon Ball fan and it does work for him. So, I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, that's what I expected. I think that's what everybody should expect. Zelda Ninja writes, Episode 3 is my favorite Star Wars movie. Don't hate me. Hey, look, I think the prequels suck. But just because I think they suck doesn't mean you can't love them. And that's the greatest thing about movies. If you enjoy it, and you make no apologies for it, my friend. Pensive Ruin writes, we want Ashley Mova. Well, I'm quite happy with the team I have. I am quite happy with the team that I have. And that's it. But look, I'll tell you what. There was earlier on last year. I did reach out to Ashley Mova when I was first thinking about getting an on-camera host. But I quite frankly, I couldn't afford her. And Ashley now has, I'm saddened because Ashley Mova she had a makeup channel and she was doing really good with her makeup channel. And then I checked in on her makeup channel a little while ago and it looked like she stopped doing videos on it. But from what I understand now, because I follow her on Instagram, and I believe she's now a real estate agent. And I believe she's got a brand new career now. So she's doing real estate. But Ashley Mova was simply one of the best, most delightful on-camera hosts I've ever had the privilege of working with. She was wonderful. She was great in that role. And I thought she really shined when back in the day when I used to do mailbags and she would do them with me. That's when I thought she really shined. So yeah, there you go. Kid Zoom writes, "Hey, John, I have a YouTuber friend who does live streams but can't keep up with the super chats. I was wondering, what was the software that you're using to list them out in order? Love your show, by the way." I don't use any software. I just use YouTube. It's built right into YouTube. This is how it presents it to me. So just tell them to look for a link. There's a link in Super Chats that lets you just look at the list of just the Super Chats. It's right there. Cornflakes writes, where did I lose Cornflakes? There he is. Cornflakes writes, "I know you hate X-Men coming to the MCU. Would you be okay seeing them on TV?" Well, no, here's the thing. Look, I don't hate that the X-Men are coming to the MCU. I just lament it a bit. I know Kevin Feige will do a good job with them. All right? I have no doubt they'll do a good job. And now they're just going to feel like Marvel. And now you're not going to get anything edgy like a Logan or a Deadpool or a Deadpool 2. And now they're going to be more like every other Marvel movie. And that's fine. They're going to be great. Kevin Feige will do a great job. I don't hate that they're coming. I just kind of wish that they weren't. Moving them to TV? Sure, but that's an expensive TV show to do. A lot of people forget. See, everybody here's like, Game of Thrones has this huge budget. Yeah, but that's 1 out of 500 TV shows in television. Most TV shows do not and cannot afford that kind of production cost. Doing X-Men on TV would be problematic. Okay, but let's forget the problematic part of it and let's forget the finances of it. Would I be okay with them on TV? If it wasn't shared cinematic universe, yes. Yes, totally would. I'd be down for that. But look, regardless of my misgivings of it, again, it's Kevin Feige. He's going to do a good job. I know he's going to do a good job. Again, I just lament that now we've got one less studio making comic book films when Fox put out some of the greatest comic book movies of all time. X-Men 1, X-Men 2, X-Men Days of Future Past, Logan, Deadpool, Deadpool 2. Yeah, now we're not going to get those. At least we're not going to get them that are unique from the other Marvel movies and unique from the DC movies. We had another brand of movies out there that were unique in their own way, and some of them were fabulous. Some of them weren't very good, but some of them were fabulous, some of the all-time greats. And now we're not getting those, but it is what it is. Again, Kevin Feige will get his hands on them and he'll do a great job. I have no doubt. The Recovery 716 writes, "Hey, John, love the show. Thank you so much. I've been following you since the AMC days. I have an Avengers question. Do you think Captain America will sacrifice himself so Tony can get the Soul Stone? That would be epic." Again, we already kind of addressed this question a little bit earlier. It's a what if on top of a what if. I don't think you can sacrifice yourself. I don't think that's how the Soul Stone demands sacrifice. And what is it you have to sacrifice? The thing you love the most. Captain America isn't what, if Tony was going to sacrifice something to get the Soul Stone, you know what Tony would have to sacrifice. He'd have to sacrifice Pepper. That's just the way it is. Red Skull made it clear. You have to sacrifice that which you love the most. In the MCU, if Tony's going to get the Soul Stone, that means he's got to sacrifice Pepper. Wrap your head around that for a minute. Well, I don't know. But it's not self-sacrifice unless you love yourself the most. If you love yourself the most, then yes, self-sacrifice will do that. Captain America doesn't love himself the most. He loves tons of other things over his own life. And so it doesn't work. I don't think it works from a logic point of view. Leo Milmet writes, not a Marvel fan, but as a John Campea super fan, is 2008 Hulk worth it just for you? Oh, forget me, because 99% of people aren't even going to notice. You're not, even if you're looking for me, you'll probably miss me. So forget that. It's a good, fun movie. That Hulk movie is a good, fun movie. And yes, it takes place, the big climactic battle happens in the streets of Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My hometown, by the way. I think the Abomination is a great villain. I still hope they bring him back sometime because I think he'd be a great villain to continue to use. Yes, I do think, forget me, I think the 2008 Hulk is definitely a movie worth watching. All right. Leo follows up. If you don't mind saying what happened to Courtney, it's simple. I am a big fan of Courtney, but I also have to pay attention to what is working on my show with my audience. And there was just far too much negative backlash. And that's not good for the show. And it's not good for Courtney. And so I made the decision after reading a lot of stuff that it wasn't working. And I took Courtney off camera. Now, I was going to keep Courtney on to write the movie news feed segment. The problem is I haven't been able to reintroduce the movie news feed segment because I just don't have time for it. Not time to write it, because I could have gotten Courtney to write it, but I don't have time to put it in my show. My show's already too long. My show's too long. And I need to shorten that show up. My show is supposed to be 45 minutes. And I am regularly going an hour and 15 and sometimes an hour and a half. So so Courtney and I stopped working together, which is too bad. I think Courtney is great. I think she's a talented person. But again, you guys did not respond well. So we parted ways, and that's okay. She's going to go on to do things that she does fit in well with, and she's going to be great at whatever it is she does. All right. Let's see here. Hector Riaz writes, binged Grimm in 2 months. I loved it. Good ending, in my opinion. Was rooting for Adeline and Nick the whole time. Here's the thing. I loved Grimm, but I did not like the last season. And I didn't like, it just felt so incredibly rushed. Like, you know what it felt like to me? It felt like they were not expecting to find out they were getting canceled. And so they were not thinking that they were going into this next season, that would be their last season. And they felt like, oh gosh, this is going to be our last season. What? We thought we had more time. Okay, this is our last season. Let's wrap everything up like this. And it just didn't work for me. But overall, I really enjoyed that show. And the relationship between Nick and, why am I forgetting the werewolf's name? Anyway, the relationship between Nick and the werewolf was great. I love their dynamic. I love their relationship. And I really enjoyed that show. Again, I did not like the way they stuck the ending. I didn't like the final season, but that's fine. I loved all the other seasons, and that's all that matters. All right, let's see here. Leo Milmet writes, by the way, this is officially the longest ever open mic. We are now over 2.5 hours into today's show, but I told you I would answer all the questions. Leo Milmet writes, saw Glass and part of me loves it. Part of me hates some of the writing, pacing, etc. But somebody give McAvoy an Oscar. It's worth it for him alone. Again, I don't know if his performance is going to be Oscar worthy, but it is magnificent. His performance is like ridiculous. It's so good. And I will tell, even though I do not like Glass and I do not think it's a good movie, I think it's a bad movie. I'll still recommend people check it out just to see James McAvoy's performance in it, because I think he's even better in this than he was in Split. And that's hard to say, but I really do think that. All right. Raymond Verada writes, ask Anne or your mother-in-law if they know how to make salabat or Filipino ginger tea good for the throat. I will ask them. I bet Anne's dad did. I bet, because Anne's dad seemed to know how to do all that stuff. And I miss my father-in-law. For those of you who don't know, Anne's dad passed away just about 2 years ago. But I bet he knew how to do it. I bet you know what, by the way, so total side note, Ray, Anne's brother, who does my graphics here on the show. And he's worked with me ever since the AMC days. Ray can cook. Ray can cook. So just a little bit of inside information there. My brother-in-law, Ray, really good at cooking. He makes some really delicious stuff. Anyway, Victor Watson writes, "Hey, John, I finally watched the second season of Runaways. Very good. First season slightly better. I'm telling you what, Ann and I thought we had one more episode to go. We were wrong. So we watched 2 more episodes last night and it still wasn't done. There's still one more to go. I love this season. I agree. I still think season 1 was a little bit better, but this has been a good follow-up season. This season of Runaways has been a good follow-up season. I'm on the second. I'm not liking the stuff they're doing with the church. That stuff to me is completely boring. I'm not into that at all. I think it's dumb. But I'm really enjoying this season. One more episode for me to go, though. But I agree. I do think first season's a little bit better. All right. Gabriel Reed writes, thoughts of Thanos' look of devastation after the snap. He was looking around after seeing the gauntlet burn to a crisp. Interesting that they put that in there with no further explanation. Gabriel, I think you're missing the most obvious explanation. He had Stormbreaker buried in his chest. I think he was delirious. I still think he was in remarkable amounts of pain because after he escaped and he's had a chance to catch his breath a little bit, he's sitting there looking out on the hillside smiling, you know. I think that had a lot more to do. I think that had a lot more to do with the look on his face than anything else. I honestly think we're looking beyond the obvious answer. The obvious answer was he had a giant Asgardian weapon, forged from the heart of a star, buried in his chest. And I think that probably has more to do with whatever look or expression was on his face than anything else. And yes, the Russo brothers point out too that the snap damaged him even further and damaged the gauntlet permanently, say the Russo brothers. But yeah, let's not look past the part that he had a giant god weapon planted in his chest at the time. So let's not look beyond that, Gabriel. All right. Victor Watson writes, Alita Battle Angel is really getting my attention the more I see of it trailer-wise. Completely agree. Look, I said this before. I will say it again. I was not interested in this when I heard that Robert Rodriguez was directing. I've been interested in this movie for years when I thought James Cameron was directing, when I found out he was just going to produce, and Robert Rodriguez, who has not been on a very good streak lately, the last 4 or 5 years at all. I was not excited about that. Then the first trailer came, didn't even like the trailer. But the last 2 trailers and the spots I've been seeing have really won me over. Now, I don't know if Alita Battle Angel is going to be good or bad. I mean, obviously, we don't know that yet. We got to see it. But I will tell you this. I have gone from being not interested in this movie at all to actually being quite interested in this movie. So, will it deliver? Who knows? But I'm right there with you, Victor. I'm on board. I'm on board. I want to see this thing. All right. Corey Bulger writes, hey, John, did you ever get a chance to see The Sisters Brothers? I felt it came and went. It had fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, but didn't do good at the box office. Your thoughts? I thought it was disappointing because disappointing comes from where you were expecting. I was expecting ridiculousness, just ridiculous good. And it's okay. But it's kind of one that came and went and flew under the radar. It's funny because this came up the other day. We were talking about, this came up on a show the other day because we were talking about Joaquin Phoenix. And somebody mentioned, the 4 movies Joaquin Phoenix was in 2018. And I'm like, boy, 4? Okay, wait a minute. He was in You Were Never Really Here. He was in The Sisters Brothers. But what were the other 2? The other 2 was that Mary Magdalene movie, which I didn't see. And then the other one was the one I believe he did with Jonah Hill about the dude in the wheelchair. And I'm forgetting that one. That one too. And it's like, oh my God, yeah, Joaquin Phoenix had a very busy 2018. And it wasn't just Sisters Brothers, which, by the way, the whole concept of it, with him and John C. Reilly as brothers, and you have Riz Ahmed, and you have Jake Gyllenhaal, It's like, are you kidding me? But let's, as a side note sort of thing, again, he had no movies that did particularly well at the box office this year. None. None of his movies did particularly well at the box office at all. And one of those is a real shame, and that's You Were Never Really Here. Guys, if you have a chance, watch You Were Never Really Here. He's ridiculously good in that. He's Corey. I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, Corey, or not, but check that out. He is so good in that. It's his best performance of the year, and it will get you, when you see him in that movie, it will get you even more excited for him as the Joker. It'll get you even more excited for that. So go check that out if you get a chance. All right. Victor Watson writes, 1968 Chevrolet, do you mean Camaro? In 1967 Chevrolet Chevy 2SS, my dream. Oh yeah, because I mentioned a little bit earlier. Again, I'm a guy, Victor, who knows nothing about cars. I know nothing about cars. All I know is that my dream car is a 1969 Corvette Stingray. That's all I know. I know nothing about cars, so I couldn't even tell you what that 1968 car or the 1967 car looked like for you. But it's good to know that you've got your dream cars too. And thanks for sharing them with the rest of us. The rest of you guys watching this, you probably know cars way better than me. And you're probably going, oh yeah, that Chevy Camaro, the Chevy. Yeah, yeah, you guys are probably all drooling over it. I don't even know what they are. But hey, that's me. All right, let's see. Hardcore Curtsy, I like that name, writes, I love that scene where the king kneels. Oh, I almost want to cry every time I think of that scene, Hardcore. Offers himself as the new brother to replace the ones. Oh, that's the one from Best of the Best. The brother he killed escapes Shawshank and returns to be with Jennifer Garner. Any goosebumps? All whirled into one movie. The scene where the king deals with hobbits, offers himself as his new brother to replace the one he kills, escapes Shawshank, and returns to be with Jennifer Garner. Any goosebumps? I mean, you just listed all the goosebumps right there. So many goosebumps. You know what? More people need to see, because I've been shocked a little bit recently with some discussions I've had recently, like in the last year or so. I find the amount of people who have not seen Shawshank Redemption extremely troubling. Extremely troubling. Guys, if you are one of these people who has not seen, and Hardcore Curtsy is right, it'll give you all the feels. Maybe not where the king kneels to offer himself as a new brother and escapes from Shawshank. Maybe not all that combined feels, but it'll give you, listen to Hardcore Curtsy because it'll give you the feels. I am disturbed by how many people the last year or so I've talked to that said, no, I've never seen Shawshank Redemption. It is one of the greatest motion pictures ever made. Me in the top 10, easy. Easy. Shawshank Redemption is in the top 10, maybe top 5 best films ever made. You've got to watch the Shawshank Redemption, guys. You've got to get on that. If you've not seen Shawshank Redemption, watch Shawshank Redemption. You've got to see it. One of the greatest movies ever made. And then you'll get half the movie quotes I say half the time. But anyway, Hardcore, nice little mixture there, putting all the feels all together into one big giant ball like that. I appreciate that. All right. Mark Buddha writes, old stuff. Did you enjoy RZA's The Man with the Iron Fist 2012-2015 series? Never saw the 2015 one. I did not love the 2012 one. But I appreciate it for what it is. Now, I was also a little bit biased. Number one, I'm a big Dave Bautista fan. And Dave Bautista was in that movie. We are also, one of Anne's friends, one of her sorority sisters, was actually in that thing too. Hold on a second. Was it 2012? Hold on a second. Hold on a second. Let me just see. Was it 2012? I guess it was 2012. Well, anyway. Okay, so I'm a little bit predisposed to it because I'm a fan of Dave Bautista. And Dave Bautista was in that, so I like that. Also, Anne's sorority sister, Jamie Chung, who also plays Blink in The Gifted. She's in it, and Anne has known her for years and years. So I went down to do the press day for it that was held in this old saloon restaurant in Hollywood. And we got a chance to just hang out with Jamie. Jamie went around with us in bed. And so I like that movie, but I will admit I have some connection to it, so I'm a little bit biased there. I never did bother watching the 2015 one, but I got enough of a kick out of the 2012 one. I got enough of a kick out of that one. All right. Ranrick writes, disagree with you comparing Jurassic World 1 box office. Is it Jurassic World 1? To Marvel box office. To Captain Marvel box. One was a new property. The other, an Est character in 21st MCU film. Rannick, I don't know what it is you're saying. Guys, please don't do abbreviations short forms. If I don't know what it is you're saying, I can't properly address it. And you took that time to send me a question and I want to be able to address it. Please make sure that somebody's going to be able to just look at it, read it, and know what you're talking about, because I don't know what you're saying, man. I'm sorry about that. Ranerick writes, also, you mentioned John Wick affecting being overestimated. Netflix, Polar, Hotel Artemis, Upgrade, even Deadpool and Logan for R-rated and being violent. Well, no. The type of action in Deadpool, nah, I didn't get any John Wick stuff from that, nor from Logan. That was all, I found that the action done in that, maybe to a much harsher degree, but was not anything I saw in that. With, as far as Polar, Hotel Artemis, Upgrade, these are small films that really didn't get any attention and didn't do anything. I think it's, now don't get me wrong, I'm not talking about the quality of John Wick. John Wick is awesome, all kinds of awesome. But yeah, I don't see an influence that much. On a couple of small low budget films, yeah, maybe. But until it really starts getting into some of the bigger budget, blah, 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 you can't really say it has changed the way we do action films. And I don't think it has. I think it should. I think it should have a bigger influence than it does, but I just don't see that kind of influence at that point. Superman Steve writes, John, your show is my church. Thank you so much, man. I'm not religious at all, but I just love watching your passion for movies. Thank you so much. We all love the movies here, man. And I'm glad that you're here coming along for the ride. And I like your name there too, Superman Steve. I like that. And yes, welcome to church, man. Find a good pew. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for sharing that, man. All right. Ranrick writes, lastly, been watching forever as well, and I love and appreciate all the hard work, info, opinions, entertainment, and filthy you bring every time. Well, thank you so much, man. And listen, the only reason it's even possible, and the only reason I even want to do it, is because you, my fellow film fan, is here along with the ride with me. So I appreciate that, and thank you again for taking the time. Again, I'm sorry about the previous question. I just didn't know what it was you were asking. Sorry about that, but I appreciate you taking the time, writing that in, and thank you for being a part of the film fan community. Film fan community is a great place to be, and I'm glad you're one of the members. All right. TK writes, Asgard, the place was destroyed in Ragnarok, and a lot of the people in Infinity War. Asgard, the place was destroyed in Ragnarok, and a lot of the people in Infinity War. So how can the next Thor film take place in Asgard? Well, I mean, how can there be a Spider-Man movie when Spider-Man died in Infinity War? Something radical and drastic is going to change in the MCU with Endgame. Whether it's the creation of an entirely new reality, whether it's just certain characters getting undusted and everything else is normal, something radical is going to happen. And whatever that radical change is could mean that Asgard never got destroyed. I don't know that. I'm not even predicting that. But it is certainly one of the many possibilities, TK, that's on the table. So we have to keep that in consideration. So let's see which way they go with that. We'll have to find out. Pardon me, guys. I am getting on to 3 hours now that I've been talking. So we're going to get there. All right. Victor Watson writes, The Visit and Signs are my favorite M. Night Shyamalan movies. I like Signs a lot. I like Signs more than most people. Now, granted, the last 10 minutes or so, Signs falls apart a little bit. Oh, okay, fine. But I love Signs. up to that moment. And I agree. I think I like it even more. Now, I did not like The Visit. I thought The Visit was quite bad. But I even put Signs above Unbreakable and above Sixth Sense. And that's sacrilegious to some people, but honestly, I really do. Now, and pardon me, guys. I acknowledge and I admit they didn't quite stick the landing on that movie. I get it, but still, the rest of that movie is so good that it just blows my mind away. And those, so yeah, that one's up there with me too. Tasty Waffle writes, where's Tasty Waffle? There he is. Tasty Waffle writes, how do you think they will handle the Baron's proclivities in the Dune? Oh, I don't know. I don't know. But I do know that I am dying to see what Denis Villeneuve and his take on this movie. And with Stellan Skarsgård leading the damn thing as Baron Harkonnen, Timothy Chalamet in there as well, Rebecca Ferguson in there as well, Dave Bautista in there as well. The way this movie is shaping up, I am starting to salivate. Like, I don't know what it is, but I am starting to literally salivate at the idea of this movie. I cannot wait to see what he does with this thing. Here's hoping it's a little bit more successful than Blade Runner 2049. Another good film that just unfortunately tanked for whatever reason. But man, so I don't know how he's going to handle any of it. I don't know. But I know I'm dying to find out, dude. So Tasty Waffle, you and me, let's just get ready to see this thing because I cannot wait. All right. Mark Buddha writes, I am trying to imagine what the Jackson Square Theater, in Hamilton, Ontario, what the Jackson Square Theater was like in 1989 Batman. Landmark owns the theater now, cleaner and has automatic recliners. Oh, that's great. I'm going to have to go check that out the next time I'm in town. Yeah. I was telling the story the other day for those of you who don't know. Back in 1989, because the original Batman movie came up, right? And in 1989, it was me and my best friend, his name was Brendan, who died a year and a half ago. Sorry, I'm never quite prepared saying that. It's weird. Anyway, he and I, as kids, we ventured downtown to the Jackson Square Mall to go watch Batman, and it was small. I mean, compared to theaters today, the theaters are small. Particularly movie theaters that were in malls were quite small at the time. And you don't see a lot of movie theaters in malls these days, I guess. Now it's like they're standalone things or they're connected to outdoor malls. But Jackson Square is an indoor mall and theater. But so then the lineups went all the way around. We went to go see Batman the first screening. It was crazy, absolutely crazy. But Landmark owns that theater now and it has recliners. I'm going to check it out. I didn't know that. And I would love to go. I would love to support in Canada any theater chain other than Cineplex. Cineplex is on my shit list now. I'm actually really disappointed in them with the way they conduct themselves these days. So I would love to go back to Canada and support any movie theater chain other than Cineplex. Because I'm telling you what, you live in Canada, you basically got Cineplex and that's the only option you have. So it's very few that you have these other theaters. It's good to know that Landmark owns that one. I'll have to check that one out. Let's see. Game Win Cam writes, Hope Raimi wins Best Actor. In my opinion, I loved it. I thought he was great, and I loved Bohemian Rhapsody. He's not getting my vote for Best Actor. There are a couple of guys I would put it in front of him. I thought Viggo Mortensen was better in Green Book than Raimi was. I thought there were one or two. But I'll tell you what, though, I fully support his nomination. Absolutely. I'm glad he got a nomination, and I loved his performance in that movie, man. I thought he was great. Hardcore Curtsy follows up. Oop, there's another jump. Okay, Hardcore Curtsy, right. By the way, guys, at this point, I am going to ask that please do not send in any more questions. Please do not send in any more questions. We are now at the 3-hour mark, and I'd like to just polish off the ones we've got left here so we can get through all the questions. All right, Hardcore Curtsy writes, trying to teach a kid about real versus imaginary people on TV. We like taking silly dance breaks. Could you please join us in a quick one? 2, 3, 4. Thank you, sir, from me and the kiddo. Let me read that again because I'm not quite sure I'm following. Trying to teach a kid about real versus imaginary people on TV. We like taking silly dance breaks. Could you please join us for a quick one? 2, 3, 4. Thank you, sir, from me and the kiddo. I'm not following hardcore, but I take it you have a kid and you're trying to teach him about imaginary versus real people on TV. Hard lesson to learn. I know I had a tough time as a kid, or so I've been told. And we like taking silly dance breaks. Silly dance breaks are great. I love silly dance breaks. Thank you, sir, for me and the kiddo. Well, thank you, Hardcore, for being here. And by the way, again, thank you for sending in that earlier thing about all the feels balled up into one. I appreciate that. Let's see. Mike Thompson writes, if Dragon Ball Super was theoretically good enough to be nominated for Best Animated Film, would it count as 2018 Japan release or 2019 US release? For an Oscar, it would classify for a 2019 release. The rules of eligibility are when you screen in New York and Los Angeles. That's where the rules of eligibility are. And if you first screen your film in Los Angeles in 2019, I believe that makes it, that's the year for eligibility. So theoretically speaking, it could theoretically be nominated for a Best Animated Film in 2019. So again, in theory, but that's how it would work, I believe. All right. Yang K writes, the retro Transformers and Bumblebee were amazing. Saw it today. Love your show. You're the best. Being a Patreon supporter is money well spent and great content. Thank you so much, Yang, for several things. Thank you for being here. And thank you so much for being a Patreon supporter. Make sure you check out that first episode of Best of the Week that me and Robert and Ashley did. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah, I mean, look, it's just a novelty seeing the Transformers in their original G1 designs. But it's a novelty that worked, man. For me, particularly, was Shockwave. The Soundwave one was great. And oh my God, I swear to God, you can ask my friend Dorina, and Ann was there. With the first time I saw it, when Soundwave says, Ravage, eject, I squealed. When he said, Ravage, eject, I squealed. Audibly, loudly in the theater. Ah! I did that. I did that like completely out loud. I totally did. So there's that great nostalgia factor. It's just a shtick. Having the G1's designs, it's just a shtick. But you know what? Sometimes shtick can be really effective. And it was clearly really effective on me and clearly really effective on you as well, Yang. Thanks for sharing that. All right, Mike Thompson writes, Hercules never became a jobber to make Xena look good. Sisko and Janeway were great captains without Picard bowing down to them. Take note, Supergirl. Absolutely. And you know what another great example of that is? And I talked about this on the show a few weeks ago. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. They could have tried, we need to get people on board with Miles Morales. Well, let's have him beat up Peter. Let's have him do all this stuff to Peter to make him look good. No. They highlighted and honored Peter Parker, and they highlighted and honored this new character, Miles Morales. That was a great way to do it. And that's how Supergirl should have handled Superman. Not like, well, the only way we can make Supergirl look good is if we have her beat up Superman all the time. Fuck you. Fuck that show. Anyway, that really upsets me. It's the goddaddy of all superheroes, and you treat them like crap. It just bothers me a lot. Anyway, Zelda Ninja writes, in my opinion, there's a 5% chance that Endgame is bad. Sure there is. Yeah, absolutely. Every movie could be bad. Every movie could be great. The track record and the evidence that we've seen up to this point heavily suggest that it is a vast majority of a chance that it's going to be great. I would say... I'd say maybe there's a 8% chance. An 8% chance that Endgame is bad. But of course, that leaves us with 92% certainty that it's going to probably be pretty damn good. So yeah, I think there's a pretty good chance for that. KW Garrett writes, give us the Snyder cut of your film, The Anniversary. Well, I am the writer, director, and producer of the film. So I have the final version of The Anniversary. For those of you who don't know, that's like an R-rated romantic comedy I did a few years ago. Very super ultra ridiculous, bottom of the barrel, low budget film. It's my movie, The Anniversary. And by the way, one of these days I am going to release it to my Patreon supporters. I am going to release The Anniversary to my Patreon supporters at some point. So keep your eyes open for that. You're going to be very disappointed. I'm very proud of it because I did it. But by Hollywood standards, it's awful. By Hollywood standards. So just keep your expectations in check when I do put it up. Although I do have some wonderful people in the movie. It's great. Edgar Navarro writes, let's see here. Where's Edgar? So you're trying to get the Soul Stone and it demands a sacrifice. What are you sacrificing? I'll my Wrangler, I'll put it in neutral and push it. Well, again, that's the thing, Edgar. It's not just a sacrifice. You can't just sacrifice something. You have to sacrifice that which you love the most. And if that's your Wrangler, then it's your Wrangler. But again, like going back to the Tony situation, Captain America can't go. First of all, you can't willingly go because that's not really sacrifice. That's not somebody else sacrificing. That's you sacrificing. So if Tony wanted to do it, he would have to throw pepper in. Telia Boston writes, "Hey, John, my favorite show, Criminal Minds, is confirmed to end next season. It's season 15. Wow, I've never watched the show. I didn't even realize it's been around that long. That's crazy. It's going to be hard to see it end, but what a great run it had. It's always hard. And this was what's going to make Criminal Minds for you and ultimately Supernatural for me. It was really hard for me when Parks and Rec ended. Because, Ann and I, it was a weekly ritual. We know we have to come home from work by a certain time. We would sit down, make dinner at home, and watch Parks and Rec together, right? And there are these shows that do that. And it's always hard when those shows end. But for people like you, Talia, who've been watching Criminal Minds for 15 years, for people like me who've been watching Supernatural for 14 seasons, it's extra hard because it's difficult for people like you and me to even remember a time that we weren't watching that show, when that show wasn't a part of our lives. Because it's been around for so long and we've been engaged with it for so long, we can't even remember not watching that show. And that's what makes it even harder. That's why, Carrie Fisher passing away hit me so hard, because there was no point. I don't have any memory in my life that Carrie Fisher wasn't, by extension, a part of my existence, a part of my life. She was Princess Leia. From my earliest childhood memory, she was Princess Leia. And when she passed away, it had a real impact on me. And that's why these TV shows, when they ultimately do end too, it's extra kind of weird for us. It's just extra weird. Let's see. Reptar King writes, "Listen at work, so I'm sad when the show is under 1 hour." Well, then you've been pretty happy with me lately, because the John Campea show has always been over an hour lately. I'm trying to get the time down, but it's always been over an hour, so you must be pretty happy. All right, here. Royce Freeman writes, "I have noticed for most part, DC uses fictitious cities and Marvel grounds it in the real world. Thoughts?" We've talked about that before several times. That topic's come up that, but that goes all the way back to the comics themselves. And that's something that Marvel did. There's a great book called Slugfest, the 50-year battle between Marvel and DC. It's a book that one of you guys actually recommended to me on my live show, and I went and I got it immediately. It's amazing. But they talk about in that when Marvel was the scrappy underdog. DC was already established. They had Superman. They were the big deal. And one of the things was Marvel, in its ascension to overtaking DC, was trying to become more grounded, more real. And one of the ways they wanted to do that was to actually have real cities. New York, Boston, Chicago, not Gotham or Metropolis or Coast City, or, whereas DC made up all their cities, Marvel used real ones. And that goes back decades. Decades and decades and decades. And that was actually part of the strategy of that. Let's see. Joe Clem 15 writes, "I know you love Crow, but Penn should have won in 01 with I Am Sam. Penn wasn't even nominated for Best Actor. Borderline robbery." Hey, look, Sean Penn was not just in I Am Sam. He was great in that. He's been great in Dead Man Walking, Mystic River. There were a number of films in that era that Sean Penn was like just one of the dominant forces in acting in that era. I totally would have been down with him getting a nomination. I still think Russell Crowe deserved to win. I still feel Russell Crowe deserved to win. But I would totally be with you, Joe, on that he should have got a nomination because he was. And are you sure? Because I thought he did get a nomination for that. Hold on, I got to look this up here. Give me 1 second. Because I thought, I wrote Sean Penn. I thought Sean Penn did get a nomination for that. Let me just double check. Because I could be wrong here. Okay, Sean Penn has been nominated for 5 Academy Awards. He won 2 of them, one for Mystic River. By the way, if you've never seen Sean Penn in Mystic River, directed, by the way, by Clint Eastwood. And he also won for Milk. I forgot about Milk. Yeah, he was nominated for Milk. And yes, he was. In 2001, he was nominated for Best Actor. Yep, 2001, he got the nomination for Best Actor. I mean, the Oscar year was 2002, but it's the 2001 year. He was nominated. And you know what? That might not even have been the year. That wasn't the year that... let me just see. That was not the year that Russell Crowe won. Russell Crowe won. Russell Crowe was nominated that year for A Beautiful Mind. So remember, the year a movie comes out, for instance, 2001, the Oscar ceremony would be 2002 because the Oscar ceremony happens into the following year. Remember that. So yes, Sean Penn, you may have been looking up Oscar nominees in 2001. That's why you didn't see it there, because I Am Sam came out in 2001. That means it was in the 2002 Oscars. And Sean Penn did not win, but he did get nominated for Best Actor. That year, Denzel Washington, he won that year for Training Day. Will Smith was nominated for Ali. Tom Wilkinson was nominated for In the Bedroom. And Russell Crowe was nominated for A Beautiful Mind. So there's that. Hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better, Joe. Okay, let's see. Bellboy Baggins, I like that name, writes, favorite Spider-Verse song. So many good ones. There are many, many good ones. But first of all, the soundtrack is great. I love Hello Danger. I love Sunflower. I love Familia. I love a lot of the songs on that soundtrack. But the best song to me in the movie isn't even on the soundtrack. It's Want It Here. And it's the Penny Parker theme. It's that really frantic song that plays as Penny Parker is doing all the tech stuff. It's amazing. I love that song, and they didn't even put it on the soundtrack, but that's my favorite. Let's see. Kari Neves writes, Shawshank was the last movie I saw with my mom in theaters before she passed away. So I have a soft spot for it. Man, that's awful, but it's also, I'm sure you believe, very special. That's very special. That such a movie like that is such an all-time great, and it carries with it the extra meaning that it was the last movie you saw with your mom. Dude, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I mean, condolences on the fact that your mom passed away, obviously, but what a beautiful, beautiful sentiment that now not only is it one of the all-time great movies, but you have that there as well. It must make it such a different level of an emotional experience for you when you watch it. Bittersweetness, I'm sure that's all in there too. Thank you for sharing that, Kari. That's really special. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Lyle Naven writes, saw Broly twice. Shame you're not a Dragon Ball Z fan. So much fun. I'm glad you find it fun. I didn't find it fun. But again, it's awesome that you do, and I love that you guys who enjoy that property are getting content like this out there that you can enjoy, and I hope it's successful so you guys can get more of it. Let's see here. Hardcore Curtsy writes, thank you for responding to my comments. We were inviting you to dance with a silly dance break. Should probably be a regular segment. Lots of hugs, sir. Well, thank you so much. I wonder, maybe Rob and I should introduce like halfway through the show, and now it's time for us to take a break for a silly dance break and get up and do a silly dance. Maybe we should do that. That's something I'll take under consideration. All right. Final question of the day. 3 hours and 15 minutes after we started the show. Comes to us from John Hine, who writes, Anna and the Apocalypse was so much fun. You know what? I didn't get around to watching it. I kept saying, okay, it's coming. I can't wait to see it. And I never got around to watching it. I don't know why, but I need to get on that. All right, guys. Oh, wow. I don't even know if I'm going to have a voice left tomorrow. That will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. I believe this is a record of 3 hours and 15 minutes. This is probably the longest episode of Open Mic we have ever done. Thank you guys for hanging in there with me and coming along for the ride and giving us some fun stuff to talk about. I appreciate it greatly. Listen, guys, have a wonderful, fantastic weekend. Once again, our new podcast is up for our Patreon supporters. That's the John Campea Show Best of the Week. Make sure you go and check that out with me and Robert and Ashley. And don't forget, me and Robert and Ashley will be back Monday morning with a new episode of the John Campea Show. Probably going to talk a little bit about this thing that it looks like there's not going to be any more Justice League movies, that and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. Guys, thanks for being along with me here. I hope you guys have a great rest of the weekend. Watch some football tomorrow. I'll probably do another open mic tomorrow before the games start. Keep your eyes open for that. See if we'll get around to that. Thanks for being here. My name's John Campea, guys. I'm going to go give my throat a rest now. And until next time, bye-bye, guys.